you. Like, it's my turn now, all right, to laugh at you.
This was the original Superwater,
Yes.
Wellington Country Park.
Wellie was like the black sheep of the family because there were loads of big uns and you could catch them.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.
Welcome to the Thinking Tackle Podcast. Now, if you haven't already, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now, today we are joined by Mr. Fairbrass himself for what's become our occasional catch-up.
Yes.
And I'll dip into the archives, Dan.
Yeah.
And we are going to talk today about a lake that in many ways, I suppose, foreshadowed what has now become of the carp scene. This was the original, in my opinion, the original Superwater,
Yes.
Wellington Country Park.
Yes. Yeah.
We're going to go back to around 2005, arguably before the lake peaked.
Yep.
These are the first photos that you've got of the lake and the start of your involvement over there. And I think it probably started with, everyone will remember the underwater that you did.
Yeah. I think it was 5 and 6
Yep.
underwater. Yeah, we got we were desperately looking for somewhere. We got tipped off by, I think, Steve Renyard. Obviously, John Bannister's heavily involved at that point. Steve was 110% confident that this swim called the Snags would be the one to fish in the spring. And he was absolutely right, you know, and the rest, as they say, is history, you know, and there's no point talking about that because that's a podcast all in itself, I suppose, the underwaters, you know, but, people saw what went on with that because we like to show all the highs and all the lows, all the successes, all the failures, all the Peter Regans, put a long hair on and all that, you know. All right, Pete, yeah, it didn't work, I can't remember whether I had a ticket or not. I think I had a ticket that year. I think that was the first year I got a ticket. Yeah, I think it was. And actually, I remember taking my best mate Andy Reynolds in the summer. It was empty then. It was empty. There's a lake, empty. Like, why I didn't make more? I think I just finished on Elstow. Why I didn't make more of Wellie at the start? We all do this. You don't realise just how busy somewhere is going to become, and you leave it because there's all the time in the world, and there isn't. You know, that's the reality. But before we go on there, I've got something literally burning a hole in my pocket. So the last one we did was Elstow, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yes. So I had a load of the Elstow boys basically get in touch with me for the first time in a long time and tell me how much they enjoyed it, which was lovely. And one of the blokes who fished it before me and sort of gave me a little bit of an insight into it, like, Dan, you're going to be taking lots of pictures for other people. Like, there's the best group of anglers you're ever going to fish with. I always remember he told me that. And don't fish it straight away when you get your ticket in January. Wait until it warms up in May because it's granite hard, because it's deep. Was Tim Fromont. And I've been in touch with Tim recently, and he has sent me 2 of the original spods, which I would have killed for at the time. I only saw them flying out from somebody else's spod rod. But check these out. I've had those in my car ever since. So they are the original VO5 shampoo bottle. Look at that one. Look, pike bung in the end, weigh absolutely nothing, fly like a dream. All the holes are made out of heating a peg up and poking a peg through to create the holes. Yeah. Dart flights for the flights. This is what, you know, your Elstow mafias, you know, Cole Pashley and Sean and Elvis and all them others,
Amazing.
Blue Eyes and all them, you know.
Like modern carp history, this, Dan.
That is modern carp history. So, Tim, thank you very much if you're watching for giving me these. These will go in a case at some point, and they will.
Yeah.
In my fishing room, wherever I move to, in my fishing room, these will be in a case. Makes me quite emotional looking at them. And Tim is somebody that you need to have on this podcast because he's an amazing talker. He's done everything. He's been through the wars a bit recently. I'm sure he'll tell you about that if he comes on. But an absolutely superb angler, lovely bloke, school teacher, and I've been mates with him all the way through. And even if we don't speak to each other for 5 years, one phone call, and it's like we've never been apart. So, yeah, lots of love to you, mate, and thank you very much for those. Actually, while we're talking about that, if anybody from Lululemon wants to send anything through to me, I'm sporting one of their jackets today. So, if you want to follow in Tim's footsteps and send me through a load of training gear, then I'm not going to refuse it. I'm a large, if you don't mind, medium on the bottom, large on the top. Yeah, that was just a nice thing for Tim to
Lovely,
Tim
mate.
to do for
Lovely.
me. Yeah. So
let's talk about where you were in life around 05, 06 when you start on Wellie, Dan. What was do you remember what life was like then? What Korda was like then? What the job was demanding of you?
Not really. It was a million miles an hour. So if it was 2005, I was 35. So absolutely full of beans, full of energy. You know, I mean, that was probably around the time we were going to Maison de Lac Bleu in France. You know, and I always remember from that another a guy who's sadly no longer with us, Simon from Shandu, who did a load of our mouldings. He was on that trip, and like 3 o'clock in the morning, he rang me. I'm like, Simon, are you all right? And he was like, Dan, your light's not on. Are you all right? You know, because I'd be up all night tying rigs, pacing around. That was me back then. That was me. That was the level of intensity. I didn't need to sleep, you know, and I did need to eat, as you can see from my face in these pictures. It was full bore. The underwaters were really having a massive impact on the whole carp angling world, and I'd say we were riding the crest of a wave there. It was actually probably the beginning of the Korda hatred era. Do you know what I mean? Because we were doing so well that the better you do, the more people dislike you, you know, or are jealous of you or whatever. So it was probably the start of that period. But we were flying. Everybody was out there doing it. They all had their own lakes to fish. We were all hard at it, but working really, really hard as well. So I can't remember the sort of, you know,
Precise detail,
the precise details, the finer points of it all. But that would have been the mood at that time.
So let's talk Wellie. When were you starting to become aware of what was a remarkable lake and set of fish, albeit they were probably 10 years away from peaking, weren't they?
Yeah. I don't think it had become like the enemy of the Yateley ecosystem. Do you know what I mean? If you're from Yateley, your carp are better than anybody else's carp, but they certainly were back then, you know. And Wellie was like the black sheep of the family because there were loads of big uns and you could catch them. You didn't have to spend 15 years for one bite. Do you know what I mean? So it was shunned by all of the people in the local area. I remember that when I first got there. All the blokes that eventually ended up fishing it, your Lewis Reeds and all them sort of people, that was like the dirt on the bottom of their shoe. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know anything about it until the underwater. And I'd tell you the thing I'd seen old Jim Rawcliffe from Tails Up in Carp Talk with these massive commons, like one after the other. And I'd see him at the Sandown Carp Show, and I'm like, Jim, come on, where's this lake? And he'd just give it that wry smile. And he'd tell me how he's catching it. He said, there's a little arm on there. He said, and I'd just put like 8 or 10 18mm boilies in one of your fun and web bags and just sling it out there and catapult a load of boilies around it and just keep having these pickings. I'm like, Jim, where is it? He's like, no, I'm sorry. Sorry, Dan, I can't, you know. So, at the time it was Steve Renyard was fishing it. Ian Paul was fishing it big time. You know, catching loads of 30s. It was 30s lake, wasn't it? With the odd, very, very odd 40.
Yeah.
30s factory.
The big head fish had been 40. I think maybe the lake's first 40 was a fish called the big head.
Right.
You had like Mickey Gray, Laurie Tucker, Jim Rawcliffe. They were original Syndicate, weren't they? And
right. Okay.
I think we were a few years on by the time
a few years.
took
So I didn't meet Laurie. Didn't even know Didn't even know the guy.
He's got a point named after him now. At least,
He's got a point named after him. Yeah, yeah. So we were allowed to do the underwater there. Obviously, that then whet my appetite for fishing it. But I was still probably at the back end of Elstow, wanting to do a final season on that. And like, if I'm going somewhere, I'm going there. I'm not. If something like interesting is going on somewhere else, I'm not going to go there until I've done what I set out to do, or done the amount of time I set out to do. I'm pretty good at that. I don't get distracted off to other things if I'm dead set on somewhere. So I would have been dead set on Elstow, and so I took my mate Andy in the summer. He caught a couple, and then you come in, Dean. Please look. This is what happens when you get to be CEO. Thank you, Dean. That's perfect. Your PA brings you in a lovely cup of coffee with double cream in it rather than milk, because that's what
That's
I'm
a
doing.
bonus, mate.
Yeah, well, it's the way I'm. It's the way I'm living now. But thank you, Dean. And when Wellie's a notoriously difficult winter water, so I decided to go on to Wellie from then on. I think only in the winter and early spring. I might have still been fishing Elstow at the time and doing that in the summer. I think that's probably how it was working out. I was doing Elstow in the summer and Wellie in the winter, very early spring until Elstow woke up. So it would have been February, March, beginning of April.
I know it was because I photographed Scaly Two-Tone for you, and I started at Korda in 2010. So you were still fishing Elstow right the way on to then, weren't you?
Yes.
Having started on Wellie 08,
for the
09.
Telling Tales book. You're up there for that.
Yeah. So that might have been 10, 11.
That's how it happened.
Yeah.
That's how it happened then. So, but I don't know why there's this gap. I fished it in the winter of 2005, and then I didn't fish it again until 2008.
Looks that way, doesn't it, from the photos?
From the pictures, which is the only real evidence of me fishing.
You're not a diary keeper, then, are you?
No. I'm a spot keeper.
I was going to say your notes on your phone must be like.
I probably still got them from Wellie.
Yeah.
Of how many turns it was at a reel.
Yeah, it says that.
No wraps.
Yeah.
No wraps.
Which is
how
mad.
many turns? There were turns. Wild boar and all that lot were using it and telling me I was a dinosaur, and I was.
Wraps, you mean wrapping around pegs?
Wrapping around pegs.
Tent pegs, yeah.
They were all doing that, and because it helped in the matches, and I know I took longer than I should have done to
you were the main bloke I remember talking about turns though, because I used to walk it out.
Yeah.
Obviously, only within certain limits is that possible. But when I could, I'd walk it out.
Yeah.
Never did the turns thing.
Yeah.
But
I remember when we did Wellie, I talked to you, not Wellie,
Elstow,
Mercer's.
Oh.
When we did a Mercer's one, didn't we? We did a Mercer's one. You'd walk it out, and the dog would grab hold of your marker float and drag it off. Or I remember in public, you just walk through it, and then there's a big bow in your line, and you can't. Yeah. So the turns of the reel, it's like if it's like Elstow, like 72 turns, to one of the plateaus, it's always going to be 72 turns. If the diameter of the line is the same and the reel's the same, it's always going to be 72 turns.
Too complicated for me. That's why I never did it.
So that's. But on Wellie, because it was completely different from Elstow, because it was a much shallower lake, a bigger lake, and there wasn't spots, there was areas.
Yep. Very flat, isn't it?
Very, very flat, and there were just areas of the lake where they wanted to be. So if you could get a better drop, because there's silkweed all over the bottom of almost the entire lake most years, not all the time, but there's a lot of weed in there because it's shallow. And if you can find somewhere where the weed's a little bit shallower and you can get a better drop and your rig's more presented. Remember, this is lead clips, coated hook links, even braided hook links. This is well before helicopter rig, days and choddies and all that sort of thing. So it was all about casting around and feeling for that drop. And it's very shallow water, so it's hard to feel for the drop. Like, it's one of them places, when I think back to it now, trying to feel a drop in a crosswind at 90 yards in 5 foot of water with anything between 4 inches and a foot of silkweed, that's hard to fill it down. That is hard. yeah, that sort of it. One of the other guys fishing on there. You remember the guy's name? Who was the guy who was sponsored by Dynamite? Big guy. Was it another Tim?
It was Tim.
He had all his 40s tattooed up his legs, didn't he? Yeah. This
I
don't,
know
hap-
the
this
guy
don't
you
happen
mean.
anymore, does it? Having your 40s
He's not
tattooed
been
up
very
your
well
legs?
either.
But he used to go over there. The legend is, I wasn't there at the time, but the legend is he would go over there with a wheelbarrow of 24 mil Dynamite Tiger Nut.
Monster Tiger Nut. Was the
Monster
one at the
Tiger
time,
Nut, yeah. And and he'd have 2 of our 24 mil sticks and just be going.
That's right.
Just putting them out everywhere, these 24 millers, and he murdered it.
I feel like they were taped together, the sticks. He taped them together. I think that
Maybe
might
he
have been the
taped them
thing.
together.
Yeah,
he was a big old lump.
Yeah, he was.
And he could chuck a lead and everything. And just fishing 24 mil bottom baits, just on the bottom, big long hook link, 24 mil bottom bait, shagging them out there, just having loads of big ones. So it's completely different. But when I turned up, I was still in Elstone mode.
Spot fishing.
Spot fishing. I've seen there's a rig box of mine sitting at the back of the room here. My rigs were so
Dainty.
neat and dainty, and tiny hooks and tiny bits of putty and all that. It was like, I'm quite proud of them actually, looking back at them. I mean, what we put on now is so agricultural by comparison, you know. So much metalware and everything going on compared to a size 8 wide gape, you know, one of the, what were they called, the coloured ones? Captors. Yeah, a captor, you know, but and IQ2 in £15, tiny little bit of braid at the other end, all bright knotted, and then tied the reverse way with my whipping knot, so I could get the, you know, and that's what I fished at. That's what I fished at Wellie. You know, I fished exactly the same stuff. I fished plastic, you know. And if we want to have a look, Tobe, at that first fish from 2005, winter fish. There we go. Let's full screen that for us, Tobe.
And that is
Is that the first picture?
There was one before, wasn't there?
Is there one before? Yeah.
Oh, that's the swim, right?
Yeah. So let's go back to the swim. Let's have a look at the swim.
That one,
yeah. Full thing, and you can just clip. You can just go through these. Right. So this is. You can see how mild it is, can't you? It's December, first week of December.
Really?
Always seems to be a mild week. That was like a big carp week.
Yep.
Big carp week. That first week of December. If you're going out, guys and girls, first week of December, get on the bank that week. That is a great week to catch big uns. So we're in Bramble Bay, one of the shallowest bits of a shallow lake. And yeah, I'm fishing. Basically, Frank Warwick is to my right, fishing because he loves fishing at range. He certainly did back in the day. And he wants to thrash it out. So he's on Laurie's Point, thrashing it out, whatever, 110, 120, 130, out into the lake. And I'm fishing in Bramble Bay. He's the guest, so I've just let him go where he wants. And you can see that your southwesterly's banging into that middle swim. What's that swim called? Do you know that?
Up and down is the one that goes.
No, the up and over is just round the corner.
Is that
that middle swim? The new swim,
right?
I think.
Yeah,
I think it's
you
called
do
the new
mention
swim.
that in your book chapter.
Yeah, it's the new swim. Yeah. So the wind's banging over to the new swim. So I've got one really close in, or two really close in to the left, sort of well left off them rod tips. Look at the old infinities with the high standoff rings on them. You know, that was a bit that we did. That's great. Still using the Delkims today. Still using Baziers today.
Still got those bobbins. They're probably the old muddy waters at that stage.
Muddy waters, yeah. Because Elstow, I remember saying in the podcast, I would not use the Elstow bobbins just out of principle because everybody else had them on. It was like everyone was just sheeping it up, and I was like, no. So I stuck with them muddy waters. I love them bobbins.
Bit of Locky stainless going on, probably.
Probably Locky stainless.
Like Lock stuff, yeah.
Yeah, probably. So I'm basically. I remember I'm pair led on the rig, and I'm casting a braided hook link because it was weedy with 2 grains of plastic, and just trying to get a drop and casting around, and it everywhere, and then donk. Oh fucking hell, that's staying there. Didn't matter where it was, you know. And then I just try with a spod and a bit of corn and that, and just try and flick a little bit of bait over the top of it, roughly in that area. Do you know what I mean? Not bang on top of it, just, because once you got it there, the last thing you want to do is wind it in to see how far out it is, and then start spodding the same distance.
So you were happy to cast your hook bait around until you got the drop and leave it?
Cast a little bait around, because it's silkweed everywhere. You're not going to damage the point of the hook because it's landing in silkweed. But what you got to do is drag all that silkweed off of the rig, because it's not just round the hook, it's round everything, because it's clingy as you like.
Yeah, can I ask a question, Dan? It's something that always interests me about silkweed. How much of that, the clogging, goes on the retrieve versus what it actually sits over?
Yeah, all of it.
Do you think?
Yeah, I've seen it.
You've seen it?
I've done it at Elstow, yeah. It basically, when it's sunny, that weed all stands up straight. Yeah, it's not all completely over, or the shorter stuff anyway stands up straight. The stuff that's sort of in a blanket is never as densely packed as it is when it's on the rig. Yeah, so the hook bait tends to rest in it most of the time, between it or just on top of it. I've caught really well over silkweed everywhere. If you can get a drop, I've caught really well over it. I don't avoid it at all.
Okay.
I think it's nice to fish in, and if places are hammered on clear spots, fishing the silkweed just near the clear spot, because often with silkweed it doesn't come up like a wall. It just gets progressively, deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's bits where it's grown really thick, and other bits where for some reason it's thinner. Whether it's the fish have pushed it down or whatever, But I remember on that particular session I got a really good drop. I remember Frank saying either to me or on a talk at one of the angling shows, he said, I've never seen anyone who can feel the bottom like Dan can feel the bottom. And coming from Frank Warwick, that was a lovely compliment. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Really was. Hello to Frank, by the way. I saw him at a show the other day.
We love Frank.
Yeah. And I got that drop, and in the middle of the night had a bite, played a very, very big fish, and I think at the time it was my PB. I can't remember the weight or the name of the fish. I think it was split tail.
I think it is now. You said that earlier. I think you're right.
Let's have a look at it.
And I think that's the big one.
Is
at
it?
The time? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, Dan, just a good point to actually paint for those listening what a Wellie carp looks like, because that's kind of the archetype, isn't it? There.
It is, mate. Yeah, they're very deep-bodied, rounded tails, often small heads, very, very grey. A lot of them. For me, they are like the perfect carp. That's what I want to be fishing for. Now, back in the day, I remember I was shooting on some horrible Sony camera
power shot things.
That had the one that had the
the flip screen and
the one that
big,
had the big long lens on this on the side of it.
Yeah.
Just went to pictures compared to what we take today, just horrendous, But it still shows the carp. If you want to flick through them, Tobe, go on to the next one. That's the other side. That's a better example.
Yeah. The one thing that strikes me about that fish, and I don't know if it's something you ever considered, Dan. I'm sure you did. Is the relationship of the slope of the head, the way the mouth's positioned, and the gut and stuff like that? Do you think that has any bearing on the way a fish will take your rig and feed?
Well, it's got to, isn't it? It's got to. All animals are looking for the path of least resistance, the easiest way to do something, aren't they? Everything.
Optimal foraging, etc.
Optimal foraging. No one's making it hard for themselves, are they? So they are feeding. Bearing in mind, without us, all their food's on the bottom or in the weed, pretty much, isn't it? So they've got to be able to upend and feed in all that substrate, haven't they?
Yeah.
They still have. So I'm guessing with bellies like that, they've got to upend that bit more.
Okay.
I would guess.
Or they're shufflers.
Or maybe. Yeah.
Which could I don't know. I mean, maybe you saw it on the underwater actually.
We did, yeah. Well, that lumpy, my nemesis, that just sat there, didn't it? And could feed with its gut just laying on the bottom.
I think you can almost see that flat line between the bottom of the gut and the mouth.
Yes. Yeah. You're probably right. They are shufflers. Schnufflers, I used to call them, with the mouth going out. But mid 40.
I think it certainly,
40,
45s, 46 maybe.
Yeah, it might have even been 47.
Yeah.
But for December, not been there. Since the basically not caught a carp from there since the underwater, which was in that May. Like that's a touch. That go down for 1-2 nighter or whatever with Frank, and have a 47 PB. Fought like an absolute demon as well. No Canadian in the bay at the time. Normally it's choked, so you actually got a fight out of them, you know. And that was a proper fight. That proper fight. And then after that, I think the next day I had an upper 20 common because I was showing in front of that new swim. So I whacked it as far as I could over there and got a bite just on a single. I set 2 grains of plastic as a single,
right?
You know, and caught an upper 20 common. And that was it. That was that year.
That's an incredible statement, Dan.
What?
It's one that, you know, I hear people talk about 2 grains of plastic as a single. So is that purely visual to your mind?
Of course it is, yeah. Of course it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's no like visual element to...
Most singles are visual, aren't they? They see them long before they smell them, don't they? Oh, there's the rig. How neat and tidy and tiny is that?
It's kind of what you were known for, though, and still are, Dan, to a degree. But then the rigs were
a lot more finesse.
You're right.
A lot more finesse. So nice bit of
which is going to be fascinating because we are going to contrast this dramatically by the middle part and the end part of your time on here.
So that's actually a coated material. I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't ours. It was another company. You can see the woven braid. It was coated, stripped back, split shot, like a number 6 or something. That's all you needed. Size 8 wide gate,
yeah.
And then 2 grains of enterprise plastic.
And talk to me about the ring positioning, Dan, because there's no play in that, is there? What is that just to allow?
All that is to so that the hair leaves the hook opposite the point, but will then move back out of the way if the hook penetrates, and also it will, when the hook turns, it will allow the hook to turn within the ring. I've stopped doing that, and it's a great way to do it. It's not blowback. I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that. It's not an anti-eject rig. It's just very well balanced, so it turns well, and you get good hook holds with it. You know.
Yeah, that the bait is in no way preventing the shrink tube from pulling hook flipping the hook round into position. Is it?
No, definitely not.
Whereas it would be potentially with silicone on the shank.
Yeah, it's with silicone. It's got to drag the bait with it, hasn't it? Whereas with the ring, it's turning within the ring, so it hasn't got to drag the bait with it. So fractionally, it's more effective.
I mean,
and that's what we're looking at.
I don't see anyone using rig rings anymore.
Never, mate. Never.
Now we've all got the hook ring swivels, haven't we? So,
we have, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from memory, Dan, split tail was probably the big one. You had fish like the linear, which was big at the time, wasn't it? In there, that and the holiday fish, the turtle was on its way up. I think
turtle was on its
was going to be the lake's big one at some stage.
Don't talk about that.
Well, we will in a bit, Dan. So, was there any more from that year, Tobes?
I think that's it, wasn't it? Right. So let's fast forward
so it's
to
fair to
2008.
Say you dabbled. Your whole time really was, as much as you say you committed to it. We're not talking many nights. I think from...
I wasn't committed to it at the start. It was my winter water because it was shallow. Winter lakes, like shallow lakes, fish well in the winter. Shallow, windswept. All right, it was weedy, which was a downside, but they were active in the winter. They still did show, and it was empty. It was empty. We were the only two there.
Do you know what, Tobes? It might be a good moment actually to just get you to find it on the map, because I want to paint a picture of the lake before we move too far on for people who've never been. It has to say, I have to say, Dan, when the park gates shut, I love that place when it's quiet.
When it's quiet, because Elstow suited me down to the ground because it was 3 as tight as you could get them and all, and that's how I'd grown up. Fishing layer pits and that, 2 rods really close together over catapulted tiger nuts. That's how I'd cut my teeth as a carp angler. So anything that was spreading your bait about was alien to me, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
That kind of blows my mind a bit, because I feel like, the easy stick, the development of that. You've been to Europe and you've done that fishing, I'm sure.
I love throwing stick fishing now, but back then, I was struggling to get away. I'd fish waters that responded to those tactics.
Playing to your strengths were precision fishing, weren't they?
And finesse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Wellie demanded neither, really, I suppose, in the
No.
end. Yeah.
Oh, no. We'll come on to that later on. But
Have you gone, Tobes? So I think is it 30 acres, Dan? Wellie set in
35, I think.
35
with the
islands.
little lake.
Or which was accessible when you fished it or not?
No.
Is now, I think.
Yeah, it was at the end of when I fished it, but
and
not
this
at the
is
start.
this is on a huge estate, right? Wellington Country Park in Berkshire or Hampshire. I think it's Berkshire.
Yeah. Prince Charles at the time, I think, was our landlord,
right?
Wasn't he, I think. Or was it the Duke of Wellington? Might have been Duke of Wellington.
Stunning belt of oak woodland and through that whole area, isn't there? So nice part of the world.
Beautiful.
And we're looking at. It's actually more broken up, I remember, but there is a huge chunk, probably 20 acres of open water, isn't there?
Yeah. It's one of them lakes. 8 people was busy.
Right.
On 35 acres, 8 people was busy because each swim covered so much water, and it was so shallow. If anybody went anywhere near you, it just ruined it for you. I've got a nice story about that as well. Actually, it's just reminded me. Some drongo that ruined my fishing.
Bramble Bay's bigger than I kind of got in my mind as well.
Yeah, Bramble Bay had the snag swim in it. It had Daisy Point. It had the new swim, the up and over. There was one in the corner that never got fished, and that the side of lorries was it called?
Right, just where you caught split.
Where I
from.
caught it, yeah. Where I caught that one, yeah.
And then of course across to the west here, you've got the famous sort of peninsula, which I think you ended up spending quite a lot of time fishing. Because it's some of the best swims on the lake, aren't they? Yeah,
well, they go out into that no man's land, what we called the Bermuda Triangle.
So Tobes, if you
there's the old sand pit there.
Go to the right here, Tobe, with the cursor.
Keep
going a little bit.
They spent more time raking the sand pit than they did raking the lake.
We're talking that sort of area, Dan. Behind that island.
Yeah, so that if you look at the island there that's got the alcove in it, just above the cursor there, that chuck out to there was about 110, I think, to get to the edge
from lorries.
From lorries to get to the edge of that alcove. Yeah. So getting out into you were 110, 120-ish. Bear in mind we're using fluorocarbon as well. Do you know what I mean?
That's hard, mate, yeah.
So it's not. I mean, not everybody was doing that, but because I'm set up for fluorocarbon in the close range swims, you got fluorocarbon on pretty much all the time. I mean, I don't think I fished it exclusively on there. I think I might have used touchdown as well at times when I was fishing, when I knew I'd be fishing further out a lot. But I fished fluorocarbon at range to the point you just give it enough so you didn't blow it up on the cast, and you'd have to keep cutting a bit off and retying it because you stretched and flattened the bit that was around the rod tip and from the rod tip down to the rig. That stretched and there was less and less and less giving it, and then it'd just go. So it wasn't that you snapped it straight away. You'd fish with it for a session or two, and then it'd go out of the blue. So we sort of learned each session, pull 12 foot off, retie your leg core on, and do it if you're going for it, blatten it.
Lead core and fluorocarbon is not a good casting combination, though, is it? You're having to work.
Well,
for that,
I mean, I'm not using long lengths of lead core.
Did say this.
Trying to keep it as short. Yeah. I think 3 foot was the most. Bearing in mind the weed was so deep at that point. You've got the top bead set about 6 inches below the top of the lead core, so it's 2.5 foot, above the lead. But yeah, it's the little lake was netted off. They filled that with tench over the years, and then somebody had the great idea of taking the net out and turning it into part of the syndicate. So all the tench got out. It's just like. Sorry, but one of the reasons I left was the fishery management on there was just appalling, non-existent. I remember casting. If we go on to the next year, Tobe, I remember casting into that alcove. You could cast into that alcove from lorries. If it was a northerly blowing out of the alcove, you cast over the trees, and the northerly blew your line round the trees, so the rig landed just about in the alcove, not right in it, but just.
Edge of it, yeah.
If you skimmed the trees, you got nowhere near it, and you could go and I'd cast and got caught like in the very very last branch, and rung them, can someone come and get it? And then 6 hours later, and they're raking all the sand pits, making sure they're all lovely. And no one's coming. So you go out there yourself and get them, and it's all them things. If they just cut all them branches away, it's set of loppers for half an hour.
Do you think that fishing was an afterthought to the estate?
Yeah, we were bottom of the food chain, the amoebas, the krill. That's what we were. You know, it's like you're paying £1,500 a year, and you're bottom of the food chain. It's an argument or a stance that all the anglers had all the time, and there wasn't anybody in charge. Andy, unfortunately, who's an amazing guy, he got dragged away, to other parts of the estate because he was needed there. You know, the important bits, the money generating bits, as far as they're concerned. You know, and the people who came in behind him had no fishery management experience. They were just working for the park.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and were not interested in listening. You know, and I think I've sort of proved it with embryo that I knew what I was talking about. You know, that could have been 20 times what it was. It could have been. You know,
obviously Wellie, in general terms, Wellie peaked, in terms of huge carp, probably after your time.
After I left, yeah, there was 1150s at one point. After I left, 1150s. I think there were 350s when I left.
I'm not even sure that the best super waters now have got 1150s in, have they, in this country? I don't know what Grenville's got in it.
Grenville probably has, hasn't it?
Grenville's
probably got 111.
Yeah,
if they all got caught.
Maybe.
But what he's done there, he's like another level, isn't it?
This I know, and this is the amazing thing, Dan, that Wellie achieved those heights despite not being managed.
Exactly,
never managed.
Exactly. And I'm sure the people there will say, oh, well, we did that on purpose, and it was left to neglect on purpose. But I think wasn't there. There was more than. I thought they lost.
I thought it was 20. Over
they
20
50s, over
yeah,
50.
Yeah.
They lost 1150s in 1 year. In 1 year through low oxygen. That isn't good fishery management. No matter how you can explain it, that is not good fishery management.
Shallow lake as well, particularly vulnerable
used to have horrendous algae blooms, and full of Canadian. The algae would come in, kill the Canadian, and then obviously the Canadian's decomposing, drawing the oxygen out of the water, massive oxygen crash. But they're all obviously. It probably wasn't as well known then, but using the hydrogen peroxide solution, which is basically from barley straw, soaking barley straw, you can put the hydrogen peroxide in and stop all the algae blooms. So it's weedy as you like, but there are no algae blooms, so you can prevent that from happening, and any fishery owners that are worried about algae blooms, please talk to the embryo office, ring them, they'll put you on to Rich Holden, who's like the world's greatest fisheries officer, in my opinion. What he doesn't know isn't worth knowing. Or Matt Pettit or James Turner or whoever. They've all got loads of experience using this stuff. We use it at Norton all the time. We use it on a lot of our syndicates now to stop the algae blooms. It's not Wellie's fault that there were algae blooms. That's Mother Nature, but there is a way of overcoming it.
Okay, let's get back on track, Tobes, with 08. I think we're talking about 08 now, Dan. Is it like you said, there's a gap?
Yeah, there's a gap. Don't know why. I must have been fishing somewhere else because I was fishing full bore at the time.
Like you say, I think Elstow was still on the scene. We know that. We do know that.
Yeah.
I mean, interesting you popped that one up, Tobes. There were ghosties in Wellie.
Yeah. I didn't mind them at all. They fought like stink.
Oh.
I didn't mind them.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't mind them. There's people that that was another reason why the cool kids at Yateley, shunned it as well, because it had them goldfish in.
I mean, this is a park lake. We shouldn't forget that.
Yeah, it's a very expensive park. very, very high quality, expensive country park. Yeah. Yummy mummies aplenty walking round. It was £8 to get in, I think, just to get in the park. Busy.
In summer holidays, Dan, I imagine as busy as you'd ever want a lake to be.
Yeah, it was busy, but you didn't get bothered. Some of the swims, the up and over, you were one side of the path and your rods were the other side of the path, so everybody walked past. You caught anything, mate? And you're only fishing close as well. But obviously the carp are used to it because there's been people walking around there since time immemorial. So, how these got in here, I don't know.
No.
But they grew big. They grew big.
I mean, this is a fish. I don't know what your memories of this.
The old big common.
Yeah, I was going to say this is a fish that you went on to meet a few times.
Yeah. So that one caught on. That's the cold swim. You can see the northerly blowing down there. hence the reason the cold swim. No, the wides that was.
Okay.
The wides. The cold swim was a bit further around. Love that swim, the wides. You had a big island off to your left-hand side, fishing out sort of 70 to 110 out there.
Had you switched
Love
up
that swim.
Had you switched up the tactics by
No,
this point?
this was still corn. 2 grains of corn, caught that on. Because I remember, who was the poor guy that passed away, the great big guy,
John Patterson.
John Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
John Patterson was fishing there at the time. And he went, what did you... He was one of them people that is always trying to find out what other people caught him on. He was always like desperate to catch something, and was like, I think he really struggled the first couple of years, and then he got to grips with it in the end. But he's like, what have you had that on? You know, and 2 grains plate, and he's like, no way, because everybody else is fishing 24mm boilies, like everybody, you know. And I'm like, yeah, why not? I couldn't understand what all the fuss was about, you know, like spodding or spomming. Spodding, it was spodding at the time. There's no spoms, I don't think then. Yeah, spodding the mix, you know, and you can see there it's either I think it's very early in the year. That is there a date on that picture, Toad?
Got to be April, I reckon. Early April, I'm going for, Dan.
Yeah.
If it's March, then props to you, because that's early, isn't it? To be. Where is that one? Is it November?
November.
Right?
Yeah, early or late. That's what I said. So November. Yeah.
Proper
So again,
capture
I'd
then,
finished on Elstow. That's what had happened. I'd finished on Elstow, gone on there for a bit. Bosh, second bite.
And that's a whacker, though, Dan. That's
yeah,
a big
mate.
thought. I mean,
it's
it's like you've almost followed up Splittail with another of the lake's real big uns.
Yeah. Well, not
At this
by
point-
design. There's loads of. You got to remember, there's loads of big ones in there. It's not by design. I'm just fishing it. You know, I wasn't like. You know, I learnt long ago not to put pressure on myself and give myself big targets to follow. So I just fished it and just did what I did. And
Do you find, we're approaching what you might consider the height of your renown in fishing. Do you find that people were looking at you and thinking, all right, well, let's have a look what he's doing, let's have a look at what he's catching, and they're going to measure themselves against what you're doing? Did you feel that kind of thing going on?
No, you don't know. What,
But if you
other
didn't-
anglers on the lake?
Yeah, because if you didn't feel it, they would have been thinking it.
No.
You might want to shut yourself off from it, Dan, but I think you must go on.
Not in a million years. There were people a lot. Renyard battered it. You know, Paulie battered it. Battered it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the mistakes I made. And I would advise people against what I did. I only fished it in the tough periods. I only fished it like November through till March. Every year, and not many sessions either. The first year I fished it in the summer, I learnt more about that lake than all the years previous I'd fished it in the winter. You know, because you get more bites, you learn more spots and everything else. So then you go into that winter absolutely brimming, because you know all the spots, you know how to catch them. Because when they're well catchable, when they're feeding, it's a lot easier, isn't it?
Can I ask how you were locating them at this point, Dan?
Just walking around, lapping it, looking for them. Yeah, lapping it. Not I'm never going in a swim because you fancied it. You know, you'd only do that if you couldn't find them.
Which is kind of a contrast to what I think I read from even the likes of Darryl, who followed you. You know, it was quite a few years later. The hole in the bush was that significant at some stages that you were guaranteed bites there, it seemed.
Yeah, it hadn't happened yet because it wasn't getting super busy. Remember, it's still not expensive at this point.
I
don't think by stand.
Did it get to 2.5, something like that in the end?
Well, this was sub £1,000.
Yeah, right.
At the time.
Yeah,
you know.
At the very start of its renown.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know how many 40s there were in them, because again, they never kept any records of. It would have been lovely to have known. You know, like you can see on an embryo lake and some of the other syndicates out there where they've got all their fish listed. You know, individual fish. That would have been great to have known how many there really were. But yeah, that was just spotting the same. You know, probably I would have thought back then the tubs of particle, the what's the firm?
Bait Tech or Dynamite?
Bait Tech.
Yeah.
Bait Tech. Their particles were, I don't know if they still are, but were great. They're fresh ones. So hemp and the mixed particle, some chopped boilie. That's it.
Would it have
No
been
pellet.
like NRG or something at that time, Dan? Like, are you moving on to Cell by then?
Might have been Cell, I reckon. I reckon it was Cell by then, yeah. Might not have even been any boilie in the mix. It might have just been all particle, which obviously I didn't know at the time, but played into the what the fish wanted to eat at that time of the year. They don't want to eat loads of stodgy, high protein, high fat stuff. They want carbohydrate. So it was playing into what the fish needed, by accident, not on purpose at all.
It feels a little bit like your fishing hadn't changed a lot, let's say, over the previous 5 years. That style, the rigs,
I was in love with
mixes,
Elstow.
yeah.
I was in love with Elstow, and it was just get down there as many nights as you could do, and learn the spots and just fish that way. And there'd be little. I'm always tinkering with bits, and so there's new pattern of hook or whatever going on, but not massive, This might have even been on that new pattern of hook because we did an out-pointed hook just as a sample. We only had size 8s.
What is an out point?
So rather than a straight point,
Yeah.
have you seen the new straight point wide gates we've got coming out?
Yeah.
So it's
Stokes
that.
using them, yeah.
It was that, slightly, the point facing slightly outwards. The whole point, not just the tip, the whole point,
Right.
like it was almost been opened slightly,
yeah.
but only ever so slightly. My God, do they turn. Right, but there's question marks about how
Strength.
secure they're going to be, are the fish going to come off them? I think that was caught on that hook, but they really caught loads of bites. They really, really did,
I love the way that you ever since I've known you, Dan, you've been the guinea pig for Korda. Like you're the one who wants to try the stuff that
yeah. You can't, mate. You can't design it and then not use it, can you?
No, but you could give it to someone else to use.
No, that's yeah. Oh, here he is. Look,
So this is a very
my
different
nemesis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a very different time of year, though. All of a sudden,
This is
looks
July.
high summer. Yeah.
This is July, I believe. If we can we get that, Tobe, and see what are we now?
It can't be May. No, they haven't.
Oh no, they've not been.
It's one of them. January 07. It definitely isn't January. So
No, or maybe the other one wasn't November then.
I'm sure I could see catkins on the willows. But anyway,
Maybe it was. Maybe it was the spring. Maybe it was the spring.
anyway.
Anyway, doesn't. But that other one's definitely in the summer.
So
So
how cool was it to catch him? And how did you catch him? Do you remember?
This is the fabled lumpy.
Yeah.
I remember exactly how I caught him.
Did you give him a good talking to, Dan?
I left him on the mat for a bit and just said, like, fuck you. Like, it's my turn now, all right, to laugh at you. I went down there with Richie Atwell that used to run, or does own the yard that we used to work out of. The sheds, the cow sheds that we used to work out of. And I took him down there as a guest in the summer. And I went on Laurie's Point, and I think he went in next to Laurie's. And I caught that one at range off of Laurie's Point on a choddy. Mm-hmm. So that was the start of the choddy revolution.
Yeah.
That one. So, yeah, so Lumpy, wasn't fishing for it, completely out of the blue, just caught it, and it's like, gotcha, you bastard, So, it was nice. It was nice to, to sort of trip him up and make his acquaintance.
Are you fishing
or her acquaintance?
If you're fishing chods, does that mean it's chod and spread time?
Yes, it's chod and spread of boilies. I've got the old throwing stick out.
And what made you to make that change then? Because that's a seismic change.
The weed. Look at the weed all round me. Yeah.
And would it be fair to say this was in the height of the chod's fame?
Yeah.
We were
Really, I was late to the party.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we get onto the season, I can explain. Maybe it had already happened. Can we see some of the other fish? Was there many other fish from that year or not?
Cool
that was really cool. That was after spawning. Went down there with Ting Tong. Unfortunately, sadly, not with us. I mean, this is like the time of our lives now. We're talking about so many people that are no longer with us. You get older, mate. It happens, doesn't it? It's like if you're young, go carp fishing as much as you can, without destroying your family or your job. Go carp fishing as much as you can because you will get old. Yes, that's one I caught right at the start of the filming for Thinking Tackle. Went down to a Ting Tong. He caught a couple. We fished on Laurie's Point and next to Laurie's. I caught that next to Laurie's.
Probably, and you better see that on YouTube, presumably, if people want to have a look at what the fishing was like at that time.
Yeah, it's got all the old historic tunes on it.
Yeah.
Make your hair stand up on your arms,
Did you find was it easy to negotiate with the estate to get that permission to do?
Yeah.
They were
because we'd done the underwater,
right?
Like it had put it on the map, hadn't
Bet
it?
they still made you pay for your ticket though.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And if we move on, this Ting Tong, I think you'll find There we go. That was a lovely carp
Great
as
fish,
well.
mate.
Lovely carp. Not dissimilar to that one that was on the front of the masterclass that we caught in Germany. Got that mottledy sort of look on it. I mean, the picture doesn't do it justice, really. Obviously, it's just been caught. It's after spawning. You know, it's much lighter than it would have been. Look how close to the edges the picture's taken. That's me. I've taken that shot. It's horrendous, isn't it, compared to what we do now? Bush right behind you.
But, you know, it's all developed.
We didn't know.
That's the key.
We didn't know.
It all moves on. It consistently moves on.
It ain't going to go back to that. You know, things go in circles. He's not going to go.
He's
not going to go back to that. Loads of people's photos. But look at the fish. Look, little tiny fins.
Yeah.
All that mottled. I love them. They look like they've been around forever.
He's got the bare minimum scales needed to be a mirror, really, hasn't he?
That isn't a mirror, mate.
Well, genetic leather, but yeah.
Genetic leather.
Yeah.
Genetic leather's a leather. It hasn't got to be a nude leather.
All right.
It's got to be a genetic leather.
We'll agree to disagree. Right. Yeah.
Well, you can.
Yep.
I'll get my mate Simon Scott in, all right?
I know.
That's the old "my dad's a policeman" statement. Do you know what I mean? You're not beating that, are
you? The both of you look like you've been eating well done at this point. You and Ting Tong.
Yeah, no, Ting Tong was into cycling, wasn't he?
Was he?
He was into cycling, so he wasn't a chunk. I was a chunk.
And this is a cool shot.
Yeah.
So is this behind the scenes on that shoot?
Yes.
Which you've just snapped this.
Yeah.
So it sort of kind of shows what's going on.
Yeah. So that was the fishing. Rods out of the water because of the swans. Rod tips under the water because of the swans, because you just get wiped out by swans. There can be 30 to 50 swans on there. You know, so you're wading out, throwing sticking boilies. Yeah, that was the fishing. Everybody had a set of waders rolled down by their rods in the water, tips in the water.
It would have been the ProLogic waders as well. Yours weren't, I noticed, but a lot of people had those real tree sort of ones, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, yeah. And then somebody found a large white bucket that fitted over them for the winter, for the when it was raining, so you could just chuck that off and get into them and wade out, because you were always netting fish out from the bank because it's so shallow close in. I mean, it went to nothing in most of the swims close in, so you had to wade out and net them. And it meant you could keep the fish away from your other lines as well, and you know.
I remember being quite jealous because Jimmy went on he guested on Wellie with Ting Tong for a feature for the mag.
He did feature for a magazine, and he caught alone, and Ting Tong caught nothing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Jimmy had the dark one at 39, I think. Or the dark one at 14 ounces and the unfolded tail at 39 or something like that. Like pretty much a brace of 40s. I don't reckon many pictures got taken.
Love you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Love you, Jimmy.
So, again, you clearly haven't been there very much that year.
No.
You're just racking the syndicate fees up and barely going.
Exactly. Yeah.
But some might say it was wise because the lake is still... Were you aware that the fish were moving and moving and moving?
It wasn't... I'm not tactical like that, trying to get them at their best. I'm really, really not. It's like if I'm into somewhere, I fish it until I've fished it out and I've had enough. And when I know I'm going to get a bite, and I'm going to cast at that tree, and at between 8 and 9:30 tomorrow morning, I'm going to get a bite. I might even get a double take. That's the time to move on, isn't it?
It's over.
You know, it's like when you just know it's going to happen, and you've caught most of the ones that you wanted to catch. You know, I very rarely do I hang around trying to get one bite, because often I fish lakes with lots of fish in, and to try and catch that one out of lots. And I'm not a tree climber and a terrier and a knowing how it lives and breathes, and that's not me. I didn't grow up like that. I'm not that way now. I'm catch as many as you can catch, and if that one comes along as part of it, it does. That's me, and I'm too old to change now. I'm too old to climb trees all day now as well. So you know,
I mean, you're partly putting Wellie on the map at this point as well, through the TV stuff you've done and through the DVD stuff you've done.
Yeah, but in the grapevine.
If you wanted to watch.
Yeah, just roll us the intro, mate, just for a bit of nostalgia.
This episode of Thinking Tackle is in association with Daiwa Linear BR Reels.
What a stupid reel to advertise at the start of a Carp film, but you know, wasn't my choice. Hamid,
That's Bramble Bay, isn't it? There,
Damo, looking skinny and young. Damo again. Surprise, surprise.
That's Wellie.
That's Wellie, yeah.
There he is,
Regnard
Regnard, yeah.
from
Maison as well.
Maison.
Yeah.
Yeah. 450s on the same hook or something. He's very proud of that.
Love it.
It's that music.
Yeah. Who did it? Who composed it, Dan? Do you know? Was it Way Out West or something?
Yeah. Oh, this is lovely, isn't it, Harry?
This is literally what we're talking about right here, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, underarm.
Long range fishing.
Underarm. Swans. Throwing stick. Have that.
Bang that out. That's not underarm.
No, it's against the wind, isn't it?
See the shallow margins down there.
Yeah. Here we go. Fish to open.
Tackle, and what a way to
That's
start
that fish we
the
saw.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
1.5 pounds of mirror carp. Look at that creature, as black as your hat. Absolutely stunning. I'm sure later in the year he's going to be a lot bigger than this. The fish have just spawned here and it's making it very, very tricky. But I managed to fluke this one just out the margins, about 10 yards out in front of me, because I was getting loads of liners yesterday afternoon. They're at Wellington Country Park, which is the scene of the underwater films, parts 5 and 6. And we're hoping to get amongst a few more of these absolutely massive carp.
That was drop tail, wasn't it?
Drop scale,
yeah.
10 40s in here. At the right time of the year, there's probably 20 40s in this lake.
Okay, there you go.
Absolutely astounding place. And we're fishing with one of the regulars here, Ian McMillan, aka Ting Tong. He's done a couple of seasons on here and been very successful on the boilie approach, which is not my way of fishing at all. So we're going to be
interesting,
picking his brains
okay,
on how to spread boilies over a wide area and get those fish picking around for your bait, so you get more and more takes. So without further ado,
Fish has dried out at this point. Love that. Cheers, Tobe. I mean, then he started crying then. I tripped down memory lane. That was
it is
lovely.
a perfect snapshot, really.
That was lovely, that. Yeah.
You'll be watching that later, Dan.
I will,
yeah.
actually, yeah.
I can't remember where we were now, but
no, I can't remember either.
But the perfect snapshot really of shows that time, what you were doing. And 2040s. That's
2040s. Yeah.
There was not a lake in the country with 2040s in the
no.
at the time. So actually, it probably was.
When you think how many 40s were there on the Yateley complex at that time?
Not 20.
They're probably no.
Maybe not even 10.
Maybe not even 10. And there's 20 in one lake. That's why they hated it.
Okay,
let's see another picture, Tobe, and that will probably keep us going.
Was 08? Had we finished that, Tobes? Can we just check? I can't even tell where that is, Dan.
That's a wide swim.
That's the wides, is it?
Yeah. In a howling northerly. Is that the spring or is that the autumn? Hard to tell, isn't it?
Yes. I mean,
very hard to tell.
The other ones you could tell because of the quality of the light. I think I'm sure they're spring with the blue skies and that, but that could be any time.
I think that was spring. Look, there's tiny little bits of green on the trees on the island.
Yeah.
I think that was April time, like you said.
And were you hearing these fish at night, Dan? Because they didn't.
Can't remember.
Really?
Yeah. No, that time of the year you're going to see them, aren't you? It's springtime. They're going to poke their heads out in the morning, aren't they? You know, it's reversed round again. You know, spring is normally day bites. You normally see them in the mornings and the evenings. Summertime, you can see them mornings and evenings most of the time. And if it's very hot, hearing them at night. And then in the autumn, and sort of late autumn, early winter, then it's night bites, night shows, isn't it? You know, that's the way it tends to work, and then it swaps again to day bites.
I remember my question now. You guys were part of the reason that Wellie was starting to become national news, because you'd done the underwater, which is a massive event in anyone's book.
That was.
Mag articles were going out. I was over there doing mag articles at the time. You've then done a thinking tackle. Were you able to see the personnel on the lake change and a few more faces start turning up? And what did that mean?
Yeah. Yes, it wasn't. It didn't get to its sort of worst point. What I consider to be its worst point then. That was still
early.
That was still early, and it was similar. It was the old guard. You know, a guy, Richie Rich. Did you ever meet Richie Rich?
No, I heard the name though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he used to be a singer in a band. And he was like the most utterly charming man. Hopefully, still is. I don't know if he's still about, but Richie Rich never cast in the same place twice, not on purpose.
Right.
And caught 1040s every year. Fished it pretty much exclusively. There was no finesse or precision to his angling, but he knew where to cast. He knew where they were. He knew the lake.
Is that, in a nutshell, why Wellie could be a bit more of a leveller? Because actually that flat bottom, the nomadic fish, the spreading tactics meant that you didn't have to be as precise and catch.
It's not a leveller. It's a culture shock. That's what it is for me.
You, yeah.
For me,
Yeah.
that's what it is. If you're good at that sort of fishing, it's not a leveller. The ones who are really good at it, there was a Dan. Come on, he's still about now. He goes on. I think he goes on Dovey's trips.
Don't know.
His girlfriend's family's got a day ticket lake down in Kent. What's his name?
We'll dub it in.
We'll dub it in.
We can't remember any
I
names
apologise,
anymore.
but he next level, man.
Right.
Next level. Feeling it down, fishing a spread, next level.
Okay.
So it wasn't so much of a leveller. Ronnie used to fish on there, didn't he? Of Ronnie Rig fame.
Ronnie is that the Ronnie the Rodent?
Ronnie the Rodent
Yeah.
used to fish on there. Smacked it to bits.
Right.
So it's not like it's a leveller, And I never really, we're seeing some lovely fish, but I never really got to grips with it. I didn't smash it to bits. I one summer where I did really well.
Which we're going to come on to.
Which we will come on to.
But I think having read that chapter last night in the book, you say that 11, like some years you did 11 nights.
Yeah, I know. So that's the thing. I wasn't
I'll let you off a little
investing.
bit on
Yeah,
that.
I wasn't investing time in it. And obviously, you could do 11 nights because there was a lot of big uns, and it wasn't as pressured as it is or it used to be. But I still now I would. I've done loads of that fishing now. I love boilies, throwing stick in, and spread a bait.
It wasn't
and all
actually that
I love
long
it.
afterwards, though, was it, that you got into that? And probably
But
Wellie
it
was
wasn't.
part of that.
Well, Wellie
Yeah.
would have been pivotal in that getting into that type of fishing. But yeah, should we move on to the next year, Tobe? We're on 09 now, I think.
I have to point out at this point, you may not have caught that many, but you and I've had the big uns. You've had the big common and the big mirror, really.
Yeah.
Starting the year with a ghosty again.
Yep.
You just seen him coming up
They
the
all
shelf.
need loving, son. They all need loving. Yeah.
I think I photoed that one. It's interesting
That
because
got big. I caught that a later date at £40. I think that's probably a 30 there. But
I always remember
Yeah.
we used to end up there with Renyard quite a bit, and I think he had a big ghosty out of Bramble, one of those neglected swims. I think it was Turtle Corner, sort of as you first come round into it.
Yeah.
And this fish got stuck on the edge of a tree, and he got on his unhooking mat and swam out to it to free it, and in the process of doing so, sort of swam into a decaying goose in the
Who did?
Renyard in the branches of the tree. Got the fish in, but always stays with me. I think I got a photo of him out there on his old Cotswold Aquarius mat. But it was one of these.
Yeah, and I think it's a mid 30 there. Still on the old on the old muddy waters.
Light bobbins though, Dan.
Very, very
And
light
slack.
bobbins. Fluorocarbon, super slack.
Is this again just round from lorries? Is this going to be in Bramble Bay? Is that why you're fishing like that?
It might be, yeah.
And there's your mate again.
Yes, my mate, the old big common
literally
again.
at this point, are you bothered that you're just catching him?
No, of course not. Mate, it's 20 years ago
Looks
nearly, isn't
looks
it?
his best there as well.
Looks wicked, mate. Yeah. I like the one before. I
Yeah.
thought that was a good capture, that, in April, fishing out of that swim out of range.
You're very consistent with the TF Gear fleece at this point,
Yep.
or the Free Spirit fleece, whichever
Yeah,
one.
Free Spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I knew Simon, still do, obviously, but I knew Simon well at that point, and yeah.
I mean, you were well known for that. That was your little
Yeah.
fleece at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah. I lived and died in it, mate. Lived and died in it. Yeah, the longer you fish, the less you want to change anything, including your clothes.
Okay.
Because
you got there for a reason. You're wearing it because whatever.
It feels like home, doesn't
Yeah.
it? So
Beautiful carp though.
really lovely carp.
Oh,
Yeah, that
size
was
of it, mate.
Yeah, that was big there. That was Jim Shelley took them pictures.
Right.
That was the Shelley era.
So we're getting on now to the point where it's
I think anyway.
lads have got on the list. They've started to hear about. They've got on the list, and now they've got tickets.
Yeah, I've done how big that is there. 48.
It's got to be,
maybe?
hasn't it? It's enormous.
It's a lovely carp, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love them great big shoulders, the little tail, and that thick wrist of the tail. Just lovely.
I mean, you don't think of Wellie and think of commons, but it did several £50 commons in the end.
Yeah, I wanted to catch the chestnut. That was the one I really wanted to catch.
That was the sort of
Leon
Bartrop
Bartrop caught that in the winter once, and it just looked incredible. And that's why I carried on fishing it.
Okay.
For that, and I caught the small tail, which we're going to see in a little while, 3 times, which a lot of people never caught. Caught it 3 times. Caught the big common 3 times. Never caught that chestnut. Way it goes.
Now that's an interesting carp.
Yeah, that was a babby back then.
Sutton.
That was a 21 pounder, I think.
It's now the big Sutton, maybe.
How big is it now?
It's way over 50, mid 50.
Is it?
Yeah, mid 50. If that's the big Sutton.
It just shows that lake, the conditions of that lake, water flowing in, water flowing out, shallow water, open so it gets the wind. Fantastic combination of ingredients to make massive carp. If you can have water exchange, shallow water and wind, you've made it.
Do you think the wheelbarrow loads of 24 millers had to say as well?
100%. 100%. Yeah, it was a boilie water, dominated by boilies. So they're getting, and fresh boilies, everybody's got a sponsorship. Everybody's with a bait firm. Everyone's with a bait firm. Everyone. But they are. They still are now, aren't they? Anyone who fishes seriously is with a bait firm. They are. No one's buying it for 14 quid a kilo out of the shops, are they? People who go occasionally who don't know anyone, that's what you got to do. And that's what I would do, if I was in that position. But, yeah, there's loads of little firms on there. I think there was a guy locally had his own firm as well. So there's quite a few people using that,
But the thing is, it's like that old saying: big carp waters produce big carp time and time and time.
Yeah. If a lake, so we're like that with embryo. If a lake's got pedigree, even if it's got none in now, it will have them in again.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's the lake, not the fish.
Because you're not talking about a big volume of water at Wellie, are you? Deepest water's what?
Volume's a load of rubbish. That is a complete load of rubbish. It's water quality. If the water is exchanging, that's when you're, like we've got waters down in Kent now at Poston, and that floods badly every year, badly to the point of shutting the complex and having to get people off site so they're not swept away, that badly, right? But the fish have grown massive because of it. So it's a downside in that respect, It probably contributes to the algae as well. The water exchange probably contributes to the algae as well,
But this culture of 24 millers is really going to help. It's something that you'd like for embryo, I'm sure, like just pure.
But we have in the first, I think it's 3 to 5 years of any syndicate, it's a boilie and pellet only water in the summer until it gets hard on those tactics and the fish are really used to it, and then we allow maize and corn in the summer as well to switch things up. Never nuts because they're no good for the lake. Never live baits because they're no good for the lake. But then we switch it up so they grow like stink.
It's interesting because this is you're catching through winters on boilies here, probably, and you're in just about the Magaliner era, aren't you? As well?
I'm catching through winters on singles.
Okay,
not on bait. We learnt in the end. One of my very good mates, I wish we could get him on here, but he'd never come on here. Danny Stroud fishes the West Country lake that cannot be named, Voldemort. He was on there at the time fishing weekends, and I was fishing during the week. And basically, he's like, Dan, and he's like, I can't do it, but he's sort of West Country drawl. Dan, I'm not even going to bring any boilies with me. Because if I bring them, I'll end up putting them out. And it is the kiss of death. And we sort of worked out that March, end of February, March, early April, do not put any bait in. Just put 3 chods out. And that is the way to catch them.
Now, in the book the chapter that you did for the Telling Tales book, those that have got that, you did sequence on your hook baits at the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, this is a couple of years on from this, but what hook baits were you using for your singles at that point? And sort of
Can we have a look at the fish, Tobe, just so I can sort of remind myself of what I caught?
Because at that stage, it was pineapple embuteric that you were using by the time we did the book.
Yep.
Hand
well, it
rolled-
was anyway. It was pineapple embuteric corn, so I'm sure I would have been making that, But at the time, if we look at
lovely
them,
baits, cork balls.
come on, Tobe, get with the program, son.
Do you want that year, yeah?
Yeah, that year.
Yeah.
So
Is that it?
That was it. That's all I've got for 09.
For 09.
Yeah.
Right, let's have a look.
It's really good.
Maybe I didn't give you pictures of smaller fish because I think I probably caught more than that. Keep going.
That was that one.
Was that it?
That's it for 09. That's all I've got.
Right, I must have just given you the,
smaller.
I think it would have been the Grange.
Okay.
I think the original Grange hook baits and something like that. I think original Grange, and Elbow made himself a batch of Grange corkball pop-ups that were about 14 mil, and they were like stones. He dried them out. He put obviously some extra whatever to make them hard, and they smelt beautiful. They were the right colour, and in the water they're almost white when you put them in. And I caught loads on them. In fact, I'd like another pot, Elbow, if you're listening.
This is probably when the Grange was starting to go, like you couldn't get it anymore shortly after, presumably.
Yeah, probably.
Shame.
Probably.
It's, an all-timer, really, the Grange.
Yeah,
isn't it?
amazing. Amazing boilie, which should still be out today.
Yeah.
That's what I think. If we look at the next year, if we go on to the next year, Tobe.
So we're looking at 2010 now. This is let's have a look.
Right, now this is the year. So go back, Tobe. I'm sure there's a fish on one of the years that I caught a really nice 30 at the start of the year on Elbow's hook baits. So it's not this year, Tobe. It's got to be the year before, or the year before that. Let's have a look through them. Look, click through them, Tobe. Let's have a look. Keep going.
We might have got sidetracked by the.
Yeah. Keep going.
No.
Nope. Oh no, not 05, 09.
No, it's not
Maybe
there.
it's
Dan.
later then.
Yeah.
It's later.
Let's have a look at 2010.
Let's have a look at 2010, which was the spring, which was the
You've obviously done a bit more. Looking at the
spring
volume
of
of pictures,
power.
right?
Yeah.
Is this when it all changed? Then this is when you went chodding.
Yeah. So I think it was probably. I don't know if it was this year or the previous year. I think must have been the previous year. It might have been this year actually. So I'm dropping it on a dustbin lid at 110 with fluorocarbon, with long, fishing when we're putting bait in, with long N-trap soft combi rigs, size 4 curve shanks, and a little snowman. That's what I'm doing, putting boilies over the top. And I'm fishing my art out, and I'm getting the odd bite every now and again, right? And everybody else is wanging these choddies out. Maybe it was this year, maybe it was before this. But they're just wanging choddies out next to me. Whee! Come and take a picture, mate. Right, so there was a bloke who I can't remember his name, but he looked like what's his name? The comedian. Something Lemon. Keith Lemon. He looked like Keith Lemon. He had the shocking blonde hair, really blonde. The moustache. He was a northerner. And it was the time of sticky baits, peach and pepper.
Right.
Is that right? Peach and pepper,
They
sticky
do
baits?
one, yeah.
Yeah. Orangey colour, pop up.
Yeah.
Yeah, not really round, but just buoyant as you like. 14 millers, big old orangey things, and he had them on a choddy. And I did a picture. I was in the grassy, which is next to the hole in the bush, the hole in the bush is like the swim because it commands water that no one else can get to. And he's in hole in the bush, casting out towards the island, and he's got a big one, 38, 40 pound, whatever it is. So done the pictures for him. So I've stayed around, watched him recast. It's just gone out like like lines frapping around the rod and all that sort of thing. He's just gone out there somewhere. He's not caught it. He's not stopped it before it's hit the water. It's just like piled into the water at 1,000 miles an hour. I'm thinking, you ain't leaving that. Surely you're not leaving that. Tightened up, put bobbin on, bump. Hour later, excuse me, mate. Can you? I'm like, you are joking, aren't you? You know, so I am dropping it on a dustbin lid at the same range. And I'm thinking, there is no. I remember thinking it. There is no justice in this world, you know, that this geezer's catching on what he's catching on. And obviously, he's doing it right. I'm doing it wrong, you know. And I've got to open my mind. And so after that session, seeing him catch them, that was the turning point for me. That was, you know, and maybe it was long before this year. Maybe it was. It probably was long before this year. Yeah. So I'm starting this year off with the tactics, and you know, because remember I've caught lumpy on a choddy.
Yep.
So it must have been before that.
Starting to filter in now. Yeah.
And this is the year of like making my own hook baits. And what we were basically doing, we were getting pop-up mix. So we're getting a pot of the Polaris mix, Sweet Aid, which is a sweetener, and an attractive thing in its own right. Sweet Aid's a brilliant liquid. Sweet Aid, juicy fruit or pineapple juice, one of those. And I got Kev to get me a load of flavours that turned up in glass bottles. I've still got them somewhere. And it was like blackcurrant and blueberry and orange, and mate, they were the bollocks. Smell. I remember taking the orange one off, or the blueberry one, and putting it under Bailey's nose, and he was like, God, that's good, bloke. He said, can I have some of that? And then you know it's good, and if Bailey asks for it, you know it's good. So, and I'd done this sort of orange and juicy fruit or something, made them a yellowy, orangey sort of colour. And what you're doing is you're moulding pop-up mix round a cork ball. So it's like uber buoyant, you know, so you can use an 8mm cork ball with pop-up mix round it and end up with a 10mm pop-up fished with a size probably 8 at the time when I first started, size 8 choddy, and that's staying up forever, you know, because you've got to have buoyancy in these choddies. And you're fishing probably 3 foot of lead core. There's no heli safes at this point. There's no drop in the lead. That don't exist. So I remember I was using just a like a quick change on the end of it, a heli sleeve, and then above that about 2-3 inches of silicone that fitted over the lead core quite easily. It didn't run up and down it, but it fitted, and then on top of that a bead. And what would happen when you're playing the fish, that would concertina up and sort of take the pressure of it all, so you weren't straight onto the lead at the bottom. Because this is the thing with helicopters, so much pressure is on that bit of lead core, or if you're fishing naked, the line just above where the lead is, that's where it's going to go, you know. So that was just like a shock absorber, and it also held the hook link up away from the lead, so the hook wasn't touching the lead when you were casting out.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's hanging next to the lead. When you cast, it's got to fling itself up the lead core, and if the point of the hook catches on the lead on the way up there, one, it's all snarled together, and two, the hook's blunt. You know, so I was just keeping everything away, and that worked brilliantly well. Really, little tiny leads, because you're fishing. You've got a quick link on the bottom. You're fishing 1.5 ounce, 2 ounce square pair when you're just flicking it close, and then you're going up to a 4 ounce distance when you're casting it a long way. Same rig. So all you've got to do is change the lead. You know, and you see here, like this is on lorries. You know, I'm out long here. It's blowing a hooligan. I want to say westerly. I think.
So that alcove is coming into play here. You can almost bend it around the corner.
Northwesterly, mate. No, not northwesterly. North's blown away from the alcove. West southwest, I'd say that was that wind. Yeah, because southwest is right to left in that shot, straight into Bramble. So it's probably a westerly actually. Yeah, because a northwesterly was probably into the wides, I think. Yes, I'm fishing out at range. You're sort of fishing just beyond the point of that point's, believe it or not, off the island there on the left-hand side of the shots at about 90 yards, and you're fishing 10 yards past that point, that sort of thing.
Still keeping the fluorocarbon for this.
Still fluorocarbon the whole time, trying to keep it down. Remember, this is early in the year, so there's
shallow
next to
lake as
no
well.
weed.
Yeah.
There's next to no weed, you know. So tips down, everything. I'm not one for fishing rods in the water if you don't have to. Why have to get into boots all the time just to pick your rods up or change the height of your bobbin? So because they've got to be level. If they're all over the higgledy-piggledy, I've got to get them all right. You know, it makes the brain in my forehead throb.
Are you seeing the chod and the incumbent bait strategy as a massively freeing thing for you, or are you still Danny Fairbrass thinking about spots?
No, it's a necessary evil.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm trying to do it as best as I can.
You can shake off this idea that one spot might be better than another for it, or you just.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not spot fishing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still getting a drop.
Yeah.
I'm still getting a drop. So in that area that I'm fishing, where them 3 rods are, the 3 rods have dropped in better parts of that area, and bait's gone all over it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what they're picking, and that's how you get your bite of the chod.
Was there a sort of minimum amount of bait that you would put out to establish that kind of picking feeding?
At that time of the year, nothing was the minimum amount of bait. You know, sometimes you just put 3 singles out. When it was like that, you could just put 3 singles out. You know, this is the problem with some of the bait people on there of various different sponsorships, because they could get it for nothing. They put it in, and it ruined it for everybody. You know, so on certain lakes they're just not eating early in the year. Don't put any bait in. A well-placed single of any type of rig will catch more than trickling bait in. Baiting is for after they spawn, or certainly into May. You can start putting some bait in. I think in May, you know, late April, early May, you can start putting some bait. But before that, kiss of death. Certainly wasn't there anyway. What's the next shot, Tobe? The banana fish.
Right, this is one of the old ones in the lake, isn't it?
I think you reminded me earlier that you caught that one. Did you? Rich?
I did catch that one.
on a feature, probably.
I was there on a guest, yeah.
Yeah.
Had him and had Lumpy as well. Very lucky.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that fish was a mid-30, I think, but not a nice carp. Didn't look very nice in the water. That's probably about the best shot of it I've seen. You know, it's got to be held in such a way that you're holding the tail up to make sure that it didn't bend. It didn't like you holding a boomerang in the pictures. You know. But yeah, I caught that one off of Goose Point, which is the next one round from Laurie's, fishing out into open water, and that signalled the start of catching them. That was the end of a run of blanks. So I'd fished it I'd probably done 3, 4, 5 sessions, 3 nights a week with nothing until this point. You're fishing hard, you're looking all the time, you're moving when you need to move, you're fishing hard, and it still ain't happening. You know.
I want to address that actually, Dan, before we move on, because this is possibly the biggest departure. I feel like it's one of the biggest changes you've ever had in your angling. I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but this idea that you're rocking up and you're walking round until you see something show without a single preconception about swims.
Yeah.
And you've got your bivvy on your back.
Yeah.
And you are not putting that down until you've seen some carp.
Yeah.
And then you're going to fling chods. Like it is the polar opposite of setting up in Alcatraz and putting them on the bar. Yeah,
but you're learning the hard way. You do that, and it doesn't work. You know, and you see other people flinging chods and catching them.
I'm sure that Daryl's results at the time as well. I'm sure you told me that watching, you know, you'd spent more time fishing with Daryl at this point. I think you started going for filming and seeing the way that he angled. It had an effect on
that hunter thing. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it has an effect. You watch someone who's brilliant at their craft, and you're gonna take it on. You know, whether like either consciously or unconsciously, you're going to. Yeah,
that's a massive common.
Yeah, that is the small tail at its absolute peak. I think there might be a better shot. Yeah, that's a better shot of it. Again, they're a bit too close up. The other person fishing at the time,
Ian
Stott, who was fishing on Elstow at the same time as I was fishing Elstow. He's my nemesis a bit because he's always there.
Yeah, right.
He's always there. His entire life was designed around his fishing, and he's doing 3, 4, 5 nights a week. You know, as much as he could possibly do, and he's always there before me. He's there on a Sunday. I'm there on a Monday. Because I don't want to give the weekends up to my fishing. It's for family, you know. So yeah, he's always there. So Stotty took them pictures. Actually, he's good with the camera. I think he left carp fishing to become a photographer.
Oh, really?
I think, yeah, I
Right.
think a wildlife photographer. I
Amazing.
think.
Lots of guys do. Weirdly, I've seen. I know
Have
a
you?
few have done that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not surprising because you're out in it all the time, aren't you?
God, I'll tell you what, it makes me feel like I'm like 6 inches in front of you, Dan, with the camera.
I know. Well, they're wide angle lenses, aren't they? And you're not thinking about aperture or anything like that, are you? And that's why there's another shot of it, Tobe, I think, as a portrait.
Yes.
There you go. And you just got a little bit more atmosphere now, haven't you? You feel like you're there a bit more. That time of the year when the reeds are just going green and coming up, that's the time, isn't it?
Really clean carp as well, that one.
Yeah, that is the time to be out,
Yeah.
man. When you see them little reeds poking through, it's like, man,
Is this the
they're up.
wides again? Is that?
No, this is completely other. This is
Goose,
up that
did you say it was
end.
goose?
This is right. So it's uber busy now, right? Chili's on now. What's his name's already gone. Uncle Jim, and it was Chili, Stotty, me, Richie Rich always fishing it, Leon Bartrop, and a few others at that time fishing
A few
it.
lads with time there on there.
Oh yeah. All of them, all of them got time. Yeah, and again they're all down
And
Sunday.
yeah.
You
Right.
could do 4 nights a week, I think, at that point. That was one of. That was like a hangover from the Shelley era. He managed to persuade the syndicate manager with Lager to do it to 4 nights because he was a full timer, so he could do 4 nights, and it stuck. So people were getting down Sunday morning. The weekend warriors had finished. They'd already be standing in the swim behind them. They get into the swim they want Sunday morning, and they're doing 4 nights. I'm doing 3. So they're going the same day I'm going, but they're already there for a day by the time I get there.
Okay.
Picky.
Yep.
He's fishing it
Yep.
through there.
That's him, yeah.
Love him. Love Picky. Basically I'd get to the car park Monday morning and there's already 8 to 10 cars there. And I know everyone's car. And you're like, well, he's there. You know what swim it's going to be in. He's there. Like that. So all I've got is in-betweens. I've not got any of the commanding swims available. Every week this is happening. It's like driving me into the ground, So I'm catching my fish later in the session when people have gone home or they've moved, and catching fish. That's how I caught the banana fish at the end of the session. I'm taking minimal stuff for me. I've got no bait with me pretty much. And it's all just on the trolley all the time, and I'm just fishing off the trolley. And then if it looks good enough to stay in that swim, I'll stay in that swim for the night, or I'm on my toes again and I'm looking again. And when you do that every week, Damo said it on the Uncut podcast about your first session back's always useless because you've got all the wrong stuff. And when you hone your kit, and that's what I've done here. I was honing my kit now. Everything had come out of my kit that I didn't need. So it weighed as little as humanly possible. I didn't have a marker rod with me, didn't have a spod rod, I just had my 3 rods. I had 1 net, not 2. I'm not big hitting. If I get a bite, I'm going into another swim, So I've only got 6-8 leads with me, There's no tubing in my bag because I'm only fishing lead core. I've stripped it all out. All the hooks that I'm not using, gone. It's as light as humanly possible. Because I'd seen Darryl, all of his kit was thrown in that pannion underneath his thing, covered in mud and dust, and all of it was just in there. And he just had his unhooking mat on the top and his rods, and it weighed nothing, and he'd skip around the lake at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I tried to emulate that as much as I could. I couldn't go to that extreme because I still had to eat normal food and all that sort of thing that Darryl didn't have to do. But yeah, that was what it was like, and that was a swim. I think it's called the Reeds.
But you're basically the base of the peninsula. You turn right towards Animal Farm, and the Reeds is along that top bank, isn't it? There.
Yeah, you go right the way round. Yeah, turn right out the car park, past what they call Animal Farm, which was a load of animals there for the kids. And you go right at the top end. You had the wides
and the Reeds,
which the Northerlies blew into, the Cold Swim, 3 Trees, I think it was called, and then the Reeds. And they were up there, basically close in, and and I'd moved up there, having seen them, moved from somewhere else, I think, and just put 3. I think I'd started round in the wides, I think, and I'd seen them over there and come round. Somebody had gone in the proper swim, and I'd gone in the one next to it and just flicked them out.
In order to do that, Dan, in order to make sure that you're on fish with your mobile approach, are you getting there at a particular time of day?
Well, I get there at first light. I always have done. That's what the luxury of running Korda. I can take my success in time. So I'd have Monday to Thursday off when I was doing this. You know, obviously I'm working when I'm at the lake, doing pictures, I'm answering emails, I'm on the phone. But, you know, I'm this time of the year I'm fishing hard, you know. But like I said, 8 of them are already there. So it doesn't matter what time I get there in the morning, 8 swims are gone. You're not even worth looking at them, not even worth thinking about them in your head. It's a blessing in one way because it hones you that you're left with the dross to try and catch one out of, you know. So there's no point baiting up or anything else. You are single hook bait fishing and moving around. And yeah, that was that classic case. Saw them showing. I think it was caught pretty close in. Just flicking out a little light lead and a choddy, dink, dink, dink. Probably 3 different colour hook baits. Because I hadn't worked it out at this point. I think I caught on the orangey ones. This one was probably caught on the orangey ones as well. And you put your banker hook bait in the best spot always, don't you? Do you know what I mean? You don't try in the best spot, do you?
This is true. Do you think that the way you were fishing means that you were probably as dangerous an angler at that point as you've ever been, Dan?
Oh yeah. Well, younger, fit, you know, motivated, you know, nothing to hold you back, stable home life, you know. It's all about this, you know. Still, I wasn't enjoying it. Still, I wasn't until this started to happen.
Right.
Because I'm out of my comfort zone completely, and I'm not catching them. So I've done 5 or 6 3-nighters, intense as you like, and I've not had a bite. And then I get the banana fish at the end of a session, relief. I can catch them. You sort of forget that you can catch them, don't you? It's all going through your head, you know, especially someone who's in their head as much as I am, you know. And then the next session, boom, I catch another one, and it's one of the ones I wanted, the small tail, 45 pound, like the bollocks. Like that's like, now, that's when I'm unstoppable.
And actually you're catching them, because in that chapter that I keep mentioning, the frustration comes across from you, like, about the fact that you're often watching fish showing in front of lads who are already there.
Yes. Yeah, you just get used to that, you know. And even my missus at the time, Sophie, she's like, "Dan, go on a Sunday. I want you." Like, she's like into it as well. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not changing my home life to catch a carp. I catch them on my terms. That's it. I'm not eating into my weekend. I'm just not doing it, you know. And it actually made me a better angler. And catching them in between in the swims that no one's fished that swim all year, and I've gone in it and caught 45 pounder. Couldn't get in it after that, you know. That's what. And then you bob over there and catch another one.
Yeah.
And then and they're all following you. Then, not all, but people are following you, and it's like, right, I've got the measure of this now. I'm off and running. I know how to do this, you know. And then you're brimming with confidence when you get there, and when you're brimming with confidence, you fish better and you catch more.
Let's have a look what else, because we've got quite a few picks from this year.
Yeah.
Lovely
30 pounder from that same
beautifully
session.
clean. Probably
beautifully clean.
Probably got to 50 pound in the end.
Probably. Yeah. Same one.
See how you're buzzing, Dan.
Oh, Stotty.
Yeah, Stotty, yeah.
Yeah, Stotty, there he is, the old boy. Right, Ian, wherever you are. So that's I think, little lobe or something. Did they call that?
Mate, don't know all of them.
Top lobe or something like that. I think they might have called it. But that's in the new swim.
In
that
Bramble,
was in Bramble. That's a mega session. So I think it's the session after that one. Stotty's there. I remember he probably took them pictures. Thank you, Stotty, for those. And yeah, I'm in Bramble. I've seen him in Bramble. I've moved from somewhere else. I've probably gone up that far end looking straight away. I want to say it's a different session from that common. I think it is a different week from that common.
Yeah.
So obviously this is your April now. This is the first proper spring I'm going to fish all the way through. I'm in Bramble. You can see the wind's blowing into it from that ripple just in that bottom corner there. and they're just 3 rods. It's a little in front of that new swim. It's a little bit deeper over that side,
Okay.
so you're getting a drop.
Yep.
So you're casting around. Sometimes it's into the Canadian or the silkweed. Other times you're casting round. Dump. Oh, that's just a nice little thud. There's a little bit of something there, but you're fishing, you know, and your bead's right up the top of the lead core, so you can see the hook links right up the top of it, away from the lead, 2.5 foot away from the lead on the cast. It hits the water. The hook bait shoots back down again when you hit the clip or stop it. But then as it's dropping through the water, the lead's obviously heavy and dense, the hook bait's light, and it pushes it back up the lead core again. The lead core then sinks, and it actually slides back down the lead core until it hits something, like a bit of weed or the bottom. So it ends up where it needs to be on the lead core. But what you've got then is a lot of play in it before the fish is really, you know, sort of feeling any massive resistance. And you're fishing slack. Like how you catch them on it, it's unbelievable.
Did you get those classic stuttery starts to takes? Because of that?
it did up to the top, did, and then the rod tip would start to go around and you pull into it and it's on.
Mega.
You know, because I've seen a couple of takes on underwater from rigs like that, and they're just coming up off the bottom and they're just sort of shaking their head and don't know what's going on. And the hook's just hanging there. It's not in. It's just hanging in. Nothing's gone tight yet. So I'm using a 2-ounce square pair, you know, obviously a sharp hook, but not a sharpened hook, I don't think. I wasn't at that point yet. It was almost there for sharpened hook. I think it might have been the next season I started using sharpened. That's a lovely carp again. Lovely head, overslung mouth, just the right amount of scales. Little tiny top lobe with a tail, just the bollocks, £42.
Do you reckon they're underrated in terms of the way people talk about carp?
Totally,
in this country?
mate.
Right.
Totally. There's just too many of them. If there'd been 5, everyone would have wanted to catch them.
Yeah.
But because there was 45, you know, it was uncool. You know, but sod uncool. I just, you know, loved it. Loved it, mate. Here we go.
That's drop scale, yeah.
This has got to be one of the best ones ever. So I caught this one at upper 30 in the underwater. That was 45 there, though. I really wanted to catch that again. Really wanted to catch that. That's that same session, probably the same day as I've caught that 42. It's just happening. You know, I don't know if it's a recast or one of the other rods went.
I think
mega day.
One of my favourite carp that I've ever seen on the bank, that one.
Yeah.
A guy called Mark Stallard caught it on a trip. It would have been in around that sort of time, 45. Again, Bramble Bay sort of area, maybe like that zone.
Yeah. Let's see the other side of it, Tobe. Look at that. It's got all that sort of the mottled effect and the greyness on top, yellow belly.
There's his drop scale as well.
There's his
below
drop scale. Yeah. Just the bollocks, mate. Absolutely the bollocks. Right, that's the next one I've caught. So you can see the choddy there. So what I was doing, because there was no chodit cone that Lockie did, I was getting an old thing of heavy metal, or a little tub, and I was putting a hole in it, putting the hook through the hole, bending it round, and then using one of the pins out of a rig thing and pinning the hook link, and then holding it next to the steam. So it was steamed around, so that curve was the same every time.
Yeah,
and that was probably a size 8. I did use size 6s as well, but looks big for an 8. That though might have been a 6, but there was no bigger than size 6 choddies. You know, so there were 8s and 6 choddies straight out the pack, sharp ones.
Can I ask? Is it something I've sort of wrestled with a bit? Do you think because of the accentuated sort of curve of a choddy, it kind of means that your gape can be a little bit smaller because it's effectively like a great big hook?
Yeah.
You don't need a 4 necessarily to get there.
No, because it becomes, that curve becomes the shank of the hook, doesn't it? So the gape is the difference between the point and the inside of the hook link, not the eye.
Right.
So the gape can be enormous on a choddy.
And does it be, and talk to me about curve, Dan, because everyone does it differently.
Yes.
You know, very much from your Terry Hearn types, which is the shape of the thumb, to your, you know, Laney, Shelley, whatever, with the huge C shape, Andy Gouldsborough with his huge C-shaped choddies. it seems to me that obviously the bigger the curve, the further back the hook is effectively
Yes.
given the chance to
Yes.
work. How
Yeah.
did you attack that?
Yeah, no, I just liked the way the curve looked, the way the hook sat with the point facing down. You could just imagine it going into the mouth. Not even what I thought was where it's so far up the lead core. When the fish suck at it, the lead core probably lifts a little tiny bit, because it's not down by the lead. It's right up the top end. So as they suck, the line's completely slack. It's pulling it straight up. Don't need a lot of force to move that lead core up a little tiny bit. And I reckon they're sucking at it. It's moving up slightly, and it's going right inside the mouth, and it's curved right round their bottom lip.
Yeah.
Boom! It's no wonder
There's
you
nothing-
get them
no.
there. It's no wonder you get them there.
And you never went down that old Mark II chod route with the small, tiny little boom section.
I tried it, but I didn't. I basically well, we'll talk about what I
It
went
got
to.
canned, didn't it? No one uses that now. I don't see that anywhere. I've never seen anyone use it really. That Mark II.
The Mark II.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a very, very short hinge stiff, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where you were getting them. This was what they called the ulcer fish, 48-14. That was my PB at the time. That horrible Sony camera, so I look proper red in the face. The colours are terrible.
You could probably get these touched up now.
I
Dan,
probably could,
yeah.
yeah. But why?
Yeah, no, that is.
Probably never going to look at them again.
No,
do you know what I mean?
fair enough.
It'd be my family looking through them in 50 years' time, going, "Oh, look at that one he caught."
You can see how sort of you've got no area to work with because your bloody bivvy's in the bottom corner of it.
Yeah,
The
tiny
swim's
little swim,
yeah.
tiny little swim, yeah. But yeah, I think this was 340s in a day, I think. So I'm on 440s already, and we're only just into May. That was a lot of 40s back then. I know Darryl has about 2 million a week at the moment, but it had a massive ulcer on it. I think you could see it on the other side, Toby, if we go back one. It was on the belly. No, didn't even have it there.
So it got called afterwards potentially.
So it developed an ulcer on its belly so bad that they put it in the duck pond
Yes.
for a period of time and fed it, and it cleared up, and then they put it back in the lake.
This was one of the real big ones that were £50 after this, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it's obviously spawned up there, 48-14.
Yeah.
Next year it was probably a 50.
And a lot of these, I've seen it before, Dan, with these fish with huge, pendulous bellies that they can drag or whatever it is.
It's a great word, that, pendulous.
Yeah.
Never used that in my life. Have you used that before, Toe? Pendulous? That should be the word of the thing. We should all try and use that, ladies and gents,
Can you
viewers.
define it for me, Rick.
Pendulous.
Well, like a pendulum hanging, swinging.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look down and you've got a pendulous midriff, then you need to do
Well, we're all
something.
going that
you
way,
need to
Dan,
do
aren't we?
something about
I
it.
haven't said that.
But
You-
if you've got a pendulous tool hanging between one's legs, well done. Well done. That is something to be proud of. Pendulous.
Yes.
The next big one I catch that's like that, I'm going to call it pendulous,
Okay.
mate. All right?
Yep, do it.
All right?
I'll be pleased.
Pendulous. Great name.
Right, next. Oh, look.
That's the swim.
Atmospheric.
That's the swim.
See,
That
this,
is the
That's the new
swim. Yeah, lovely. Look at that. That's atmospheric beyond, isn't it? Summertime. That was what I moved. I think that was when I changed rigs. In between that, so I've caught them 3 fish. Obviously, I'm mega keen to get back in Bramble Bay the next session, which I have done. And I think that's probably that photo. And the rod off to the left, I think I was using, maybe almond had come out by this point, and I might have had almond on one of the rods, maybe.
I don't know, Dan, because in that.
Did it or not? When did,
Well, I
when
don't
did
know.
the
I feel like
Goo came out when we did underwater at Linear.
So this is 2010. This is the year I joined Korda. I don't think it was for a couple of years after that.
Right,
so,
okay. So anyway, I remember it was during the middle of the day, left-hand rod. Turtle is the only 50-pounder in the lake at the time, I think.
A big man.
Maybe no, turtle and the Chinese common maybe were 50-pound right at this point. Well, I never caught Chinese either. And I've had all these fish the week before. I know my 3 marks. Dink, dink, dink. Then got to walk them out or nothing. It's just ingrained in me. It's not far, 40, 50 yards at the most from the swim. So the rod on the left has gone. I'm playing this thing, and the turtle's renowned for rucking.
On the surface as well.
This thing has gone absolutely ballistic, right? And I'm thinking, I'm going to get the turtle, I'm going to get the turtle, I'm going to get the turtle. And the turtle, just to describe it, I don't know, you'll probably be able to find a
Yeah, you
picture
will,
of
mate.
it.
Yeah.
The ultimate colour. It's like the Black Mirror. Great big long purple on the top, browny red on the belly, black tail, amazing head, a male, just the bollocks.
Like a submarine, wasn't it?
Like a submarine.
And actually, that swim
Yeah.
that you're in, I think Turtle Corner, what was called Turtle Corner, was to your right, isn't it?
Yes.
So he obviously has got some form in
It's
that
got
area.
form in there, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's gone on and on and on and on and on, this battle. And in the end, it's got close in, and it's done one of those massive head shakes. You know, when the tick goes boom like that. I've got fluorocarbon on a powerful rod, and it's come off. I'm like, I've wound in a piece of lead core that's undone at the end.
Oh my God, Dan.
So it hasn't snapped the line,
No.
hasn't snapped the hook link.
Splice
I've
has
had
gone
so many fish on this bit of lead core, and it's been in the water so much, the bit of super glue has obviously perished, and it's come undone at the end. So the hook's still in the mouth of whatever this thing is. And you always think it probably wasn't that one, but you always think it's that one, don't you? You know?
Because
Yeah.
a lot
I didn't take that very well at
a
that
lot
time.
of those welly fish were plodders.
Yeah, they
weren't
were, yeah, they were.
Not explosive.
No, the big fat things.
Yes,
and
they
they're
can't do it,
heavy.
can they? Yeah.
Heavy, plodding around, take forever to get them in, or come up on the top straight away and just waddle on the surface and just
Yes.
backwards. Lumpy did that from about 80, 90 yards out, just on the top. Backward, his head just going backwards and forwards like that.
They weren't.
I say you won them.
Yeah, they
I say
weren't.
you won 'em,
athletes.
you know.
Ooh. Who's that?
Excuse me. £52, 2013.
Okay, it's tricky to but you can sort of get an idea of the colours and stuff, can't you?
Look at that.
Very unusual carp, Dan. Actually, you don't see many like
Look
that
at
at all, do
him.
you?
Look.
Yeah.
Look at that. We should have got babies of that fish. Do you know what I mean? It's such a travesty to not. Well done, Tobe, for getting this. Can't remember the angler's name. He caught a few, though. I remember that.
I did remember the name. I've been racking my brains as we've been talking, Dan. A portion of my brain has been set aside to remember the name Tim Wagner. Was the
Tim
guy
Wagner.
Yeah.
Yes, well done.
That's who we were talking about with the wheelbarrow full of bait.
With the wheelbarrow full of bait. Yes. Yeah.
I can retire happy now.
This video
You're
here
not
shows
losing
a,
it, Rich.
A Liam McGoldrick.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't know
Maybe
the
looks
guy.
like a later capture to me. Tobes.
Yeah.
Looks like a late one. So you haven't caught the turtle,
Haven't caught the turtle.
but you are going to go on to catch some more big ones in this.
Yeah, so
run
if
of fish,
we
aren't you?
carry on, like I think the next fish is probably also out of Bramble. Maybe not. If we go back to the fish there, Tobe. Keep going. We are. Yeah. Bosh, yeah.
Right.
There we go.
Also, and then
That's the scenic. There we
Okay,
go.
right, so one
Big
Stotty
old
had then.
goldfish,
Yeah,
one
right.
Stotty had, yeah. So we're out of Bramble now. This is back onto Goose Point, and they loved it. Like in the spring, Goose Point's normally a long range swim out up the side of the island, out into open water. This one was caught round to the left, close in.
towards the entrance.
Towards the entrance
yeah,
to the little lake. Yeah, they just loved it round there in the spring. You could see the wind gently lapping down that end of the lake. Yeah, I can't remember how big it is.
It's a 40 though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
that
40,
fish?
mate. Yeah, it's a 40. Yeah. Big
But
old.
this is
big
around
old
the time that
tiny
I-
goldfish.
So look,
That one I like a
he's
lot
a cool
more.
carp.
I really like the shape of him. Big, thick wrist of the tail. You know, it's not his fault. He's a ghosty, is it?
Are you back
a
at Bramble here or
No, that's still
Goose?
on Goose, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I caught a few off.
Oh,
of
that's
Goose.
the island there. That's boathouse sort of to your right.
Yeah.
Off.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. It's just off of Goose round to the right hand side. Nice carp. That another 40 pound 4. I think that was the last one in the.
Is
the
that
thing.
5 now? You've had
640s.
6 in 3 weeks, I think. Says.
3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
There you go. There's the lake in the background. So that's classic Wellie. You know, island out in the middle, trees all round it, very
Shallow
flat,
water.
very flat terrain all round the lake. You know, yeah,
mega carp.
mega carp, nice shot that as
When
well.
you reflect on that period, 640s in 3 weeks. That's right up there, surely, in the angling
Yeah,
that you've done.
Yeah, but in the angling I've done, yes. I thought you were going to say in comparison to others. No, in the angling I've done, yes, of course it is. Of course it is. But it's we're hardwired that bigger is better, aren't we? And if you catch 6 fish on any lake that you've found difficult in the past, and you catch 6 fish in 3 weeks, however big they are, whether they're £15 or £45, you fish well. That's all you can do.
I think it must. I think maybe I'm alluding to the fact that you overcame, struggles and frustrations in this period.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And
yeah,
proper triumphed as well.
Yeah. And they were there to be caught. That was the thing. That some people were just flinging choddies anywhere and not fishing that effectively and catching a few. And when you do it right, and the hook baits I had, they were like, like you make a batch and you're almost reusing them because they're the ones, and you're just getting every bite on them. And I tried black hook baits; they didn't really work. I tried red, but yellow and orange were the 2 best colours by far.
Right.
And always wrapped around a cork ball, tied on, little short choddies.
Once you've done that, Dan, I'm surprised in a way that you don't still tinker with your own hook baits, or maybe you do.
Can't be bothered, mate. I do from a goo point of view and from a buoyancy point of view. I do.
Okay.
And putting sriracha on them and that. So I still tinker with that sort of thing, but not making them anymore.
I suppose maybe you would if you were chodding. I don't know how buoyant today's
I'll get somebody to do it for me, mate, and then add the bits on I wanted to add. There's so many good hook baits made out there now, and Kev's got his act together and really got his buoyant pop-ups proper buoyant now. So you chuck the stuff on them that you want to chuck on them, and they're as good as anything. I think most of them need boosting with something, and it's nice to make up a little flavour mix and just keep dabbing it onto them or re-gooing them if that's what you're going to do. But I've learned over the years that that's great at certain times of the year, but it's not what you want to be using when they're eating food, really eating food. You want to be matching and hatching as much as you can,
And because of that, a lot of these are spring captures still.
Yeah, these are spring captures, yeah.
So they would all fit.
Yes.
Did you ever get round to feeding lots of boilie and match
the
hatch on there?
I think we can go on to that on the next.
Right, let's have a look
next
then.
year.
Let's spin through a few of these, because this is. Did it get better than this, Dan? Was that your
That
peak?
was the best time for big uns.
Yeah.
But I caught more in the summer, and it was back onto off of choddies and back onto clear spot fishing. And
oh, really?
Yeah, fishing bottom baits.
Because on to 2011. Or the rest of 2010.
Did we?
Is there more?
Let's
from
spin
that year?
through 2010, mate, and just make sure. That's when I came and saw you, Dan. Took some pictures for the book on goose.
Right.
Including all the sort of sequence. We might throw a few shots in if we can find them of the hook baits and the chod setup that you were using.
Yeah.
This is the rest of 2010.
Yeah.
Right.
So
there's another ghosty.
I reckon. I think you've had him before as well, haven't you? The shape.
Maybe. Maybe.
Do you think that you
Keep
caught?
going, Tobe.
You caught a sort of say. Well, he's a lovely. That's a mega fish, really. Not done no justice by the night shots, I suppose.
Yeah.
But
Looks a bit like that one I had in the spring. Yeah, you can see what I caught that on.
are you back on this then?
Yeah, so I think this is probably summer. I'm fishing with bait now, and then I'm back onto that because I haven't mastered the boilie thing or got my head not mastered it because I did it in Europe loads.
Yes.
But I'm probably going to Elstow as well, and I'm just most people don't swap dramatically from one tactic to another mid-season, do they? If you're catching them all on hinges, you go to another lake and you fish hinges. You don't go and fish plastic, do you?
Maybe lads would switch from a hinge to a tiger knot on the bottom at some stage in the summer, but that's about
But that's probably on the same lake. Look at all the little pearly scales. I think it might have been called pearly tail.
Little spangles, maybe.
Little spangles. Yes, maybe. Yeah,
lovely carp.
Yeah,
there was a big one as well, wasn't there? Obviously, a big.
Is that a ghosty or is that a common?
That's a common for me.
Yeah, I would say so as well.
Don't know. There's something in the lips, isn't there? But who knows?
Yeah,
lovely carp.
Less
small one though. Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Right.
That's the summer, I think. Okay. So I didn't go much in the summer, probably because I was going to Elstow.
Mm-hmm.
So let's have a look at the next year.
So at this point, presumably, you're very confident taking what you'd learned into another year.
Obviously, I'm gagging.
This is tonight. It's 2000.
Great fish that day.
That is absolute bollocks. So this is the year that we went to Sky Lake with Darryl, and he showed us how to sharpen hooks.
Okay.
This is that year.
Right.
And whilst I lost a few by cutting out of them, I think, hooks too sharp.
Yep.
This was one I caught in the autumn off of the wide swim. What an amazing looking carp.
Look at that sort of the like patina on the back there, sort of that.
That's another word, patina.
I was trying to not use that.
What is Tobe? Patina? Is that in your vocab?
No, I haven't got that, Rich.
Spell it for me, Rich. Spell it for me.
Patina.
Patina.
It's a great word.
Right. And what does that signify? What does that stand for?
It's wrong for this slightly, but patina is when, if you imagine it's the luster or something that's built up with age, like lots of use. So
Right,
imagine
okay.
the patina on a doorstep or a handle that's used all the time. It gets like a sort of
right,
a worn look,
Right.
you know,
Right.
or a shine at times.
It's been an education this morning, hasn't it, Tobe?
Need
It
to
really
start writing
has.
some of these down.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but anyway, that's not
Patina.
really,
That is another name for a carp, isn't it? That
Yeah,
is
if
have
you've
you
got
not named fish these things?
Mate, all
You
I've
don't
got
catch
is
enough to
Big
name
Bernard or
anything, do you?
something. How dare you, Dan?
Well, you only fish lakes with 3 carp in, and they've already been named, haven't they?
But what have I got? Big Bernard. Is he still alive? In
Bernard.
Gigantica
Yeah,
Bernard?
not Big Bernard. I think it's just called Bernards
Oh,
now.
maybe he's big now, though, isn't he?
Yeah, he's 50-pounder at least. Yeah.
Slow growing by Gigantica standards. Though.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all right. Anyway, him. That the swirly bit of skin is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely carp. Let's
Love it.
moving swiftly on.
Look at the other side of it. Look at the head and the mouth on it, man.
It's like a baby drop scale, isn't he? He's sort of getting.
Yeah, but he's like that split tail. Head's
Yes.
a bit like that split
Yeah.
tail. The
Very
body,
flat, yeah.
very flat.
that line.
You know, big at the back end. Yeah, 40-pounder in the autumn on a size 4 curve, sharpened to within an inch of his life, aka Darryl style. Yeah.
You sharpening curves, were you?
Sharpening curves. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. This is the one that I caught in the spring that you were looking for earlier. That I caught on one of Elliot's hook baits.
That's very male, isn't it? That fish.
Very
Look at it.
male, yes.
Flat belly, big round tail.
Yeah, mega carp again. So many lovely carp. There was never. That's a better look at the head on it,
Yeah,
man.
mouth and that. Yeah.
Incredible.
That could literally be one of the ones that from the Darryl you and Darryl's visit to Germany, couldn't it?
Could easily,
Could
mate,
literally be that
easily.
carp.
There you go. That was what it was on.
Yeah.
Little choddy.
I mean, I've heard they were Belgian fish, the Wellies, like or of a Belgian origin.
Makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, looks very similar. Small tail. That was my second capture of the small tail. So that's from lorries flicking it round over the top of the trees and into the alcove. You know. Yeah, there was a
Nice when the flash doesn't catch them quite as much. You know, I know you wouldn't do that now, but you know,
I
the
don't never have flash now. Ever.
flash was like I imagine it popped up as a
Yeah, it does automatically. Yeah,
didn't it?
But yeah, that's the thing. Northerly, blowing away from the alcove, you're casting just over the top of the edge of the trees for it to land in the alcove and the line to be blown around. That's what you were trying to do.
Proper that, isn't it?
Yeah, mate.
Basically bending it around the corner.
Bending it round the corner like as a golfer would. Yeah,
That's it for
but
2011.
that alcove. That's the only way you could get in there. You couldn't access it from any other swim.
Right.
But you know, a well-known angler who's been on the front of Carp Talk many times was wading across from hole in the bush onto that island and underarming him into the alcove. We know who's doing this and putting his fish that he caught there on the front cover. You know, because people are in his swim and he get a bite and his 3 rods are all just sitting there, and they're like, "What's going on?" He's like, "I've got one on the other rod geese," and he's got to go. He waders on, wading
You would
across
take
the thing.
it apart from there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, mate. He's underarming into that alcove.
What attracted them about the alcove? Just because it was
Because
inaccessible?
it was inaccessible. Mate, I went out there in the boat to retrieve a rig, and of course you have a little look round when you're out in the boat.
Yeah.
And mate, that bit where you couldn't get to was all hollowed out, completely hollowed out gravel. Like there's numerous fish went on the front cover of Carp Talk that were underarmed into that alcove.
Lads used to bait up from there, didn't they? Go around and catapult them out. I've seen that.
Probably, yeah.
If you're fishing lorries.
Yeah. I mean, that's all right, isn't it? You cast him from lorries, you're going down to bait up with catapult. Yeah, fine, no problem. But yeah, so catching it fair and square like that in March as well. And that fish actually, if we go back onto the pictures, mate, of me with a fish with a bush in the background, that basically, that was so powerful, that fish. I got it away from, because obviously it can do you round the corner.
Yes.
Into the alcove. I've got it away from the alcove and it's come out into open water by side straining it. Got it in close and it's just run into Bramble Bay to my left. It's gone straight in there. It's like you just backwinding, you can't do anything with it. You're nearly not keeping up with it. And I've got no waders on at this point. Excuse me. And behind that bush, you can see that tree. It's gone into Bramble Bay and that tree's in the way. So I've had to lean the rod in the tree on the clutch. And it's miles back away from my swim, run back to where my kit is, put the waders on, and the tip's just doing this, just going over, and run back to it, bring the net with me, get in the water and go round the front of the bush, and I've netted it in Bramble Bay.
Amazing.
In the end.
Yeah.
44-pounder in March, like absolutely buzzing. Oh, mate, when you catch them twice on recapture, fuck that, man. Like you've caught an amazing carp, you know, at a great time of year, from a really, really good bit of angling. So what? Do you know what I mean? Oh, you've caught it when someone else could have caught it. Well, that's them to do. That's the way it goes.
In a way, Wellie was one of the first like big carp waters where that didn't matter, Dan, because there's so many bloody big ones there. You're not going to pull off when it comes out, are you?
Right.
Okay, Tobe.
I think there's not a lot that year, is there, Tobe?
That was the end of that year.
Oh, was it?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So we're coming towards the end of your fishing on Wellie, really.
Yeah, a couple more years, I think we've got.
I think like maybe there were other carp, Dan, but your average size has been mega.
Yeah, we'll get on to the summer fishing. I think it's the next year, Tobe. The summer fishing, that was caught some love. I mean, there weren't 40s, there's a lot of 30s, but big 30s.
This is 2012.
Love that fish.
Yeah, that's saucer head, apparently.
Just a great name.
Saucer head. That was I was in when I got the bite. I was on the end of, what's that point called?
Daisy?
No, the one that's got the clubhouse on it.
Oh, good.
Going up to the
boat
end.
House.
Boathouse,
Yeah.
that's it. So I was in Boathouse fishing again these same sharpened size 4 curves, just past the island. You're sort of casting straight out past the left-hand edge of the island where I got the bite from. Little combi rig, sort of gas ferrum style.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Little bit of fluorocarbon, tiny little pop-up weight, trying a little bit of putty to balance it, and a food bait. I think Newgrange, with it was either a pop-up that I'd made out of pop-up mix and Newgrange liquid, or base mix wrapped around a cork ball. But I was in the clubhouse laying a cable when I got this bite.
Luckily, it's not very far.
Luckily, it's not very far, and luckily I'd already laid it, so it was a quick up with the trousers and out.
Yeah,
quick wipe up with the trousers and out, and that was my PB for a long time, 49.14. That. Let's have a look at another picture.
It must be incredibly wide because it doesn't look a particularly long fish.
No, it was absolute beast.
Like a block.
Yeah, block. Yeah, hopefully there's a picture in the water with it, Tobe. Yeah. Go back one because it's better the other side.
Yeah.
That's a better side of it where it hasn't got the blind eye to it.
I really like the other side, Dan. I think you don't see many with that sunken sort of eye.
That's the side for me. That's the side for me. Again, that rounded heart-shaped tail. They've all got that, haven't they? They're just a mega strain of fish, and I hope somebody has got spawn.
They must have, mustn't they?
Yeah.
Someone out there.
I think somebody has.
To embryo.
I think somebody has got spawn actually.
Have they? Right.
Yeah.
Be nice to see them.
He who cannot be named.
Okay.
I think has got spawn.
Right.
There it is going back.
Yeah, the size of it, mate. The width of it.
Yeah.
Rounded tail. These, I feel like these are almost like another generation coming through. Though the original big set, like your split tails, your lumpies, your turtles. Then you've got
maybe it was the generation.
That's what I mean.
The year group after.
Yeah,
maybe.
They did your scruffy bobs and all.
But maybe they bought them all together and they bought some 20s and some 10-pounders when they brought them over.
Yeah,
so they're that age group there. Keep going, Toe. What don't think. Look at that. What a carp.
He looks like he'd rook, mate.
Yeah, he did. That was in Bramble. That was at that new swim.
He's got almost
You can seal the Canadian that I've pulled
Yes.
off the rig down on the right hand side there.
I feel like if he was a little bit exposed a bit lower, you'd see that all that it's purples and reds and sort of greys.
Exactly. Yeah. Mega colours. Looks like a boy to me. Big fins like that.
Yeah.
You know, flat on the bottom. This is out of Bramble. So this, right, I remember this session. Excuse me. So I'm fishing the entrance to, it was called the entrance to Bramble. Sorry, not Lorries, not next to Lorries. It was called the entrance to Bramble, that swim, I think. And they're in Bramble, right? And I'm catapulting half 20 millers, I think, new Grange. And I'm wading out in my waders as far as I can with a boilie caddy strapped round me and catapulting half boilies, soaked in oil, catapulting them everywhere, all over a great big area, as far as I can get them. And they're just, you know what half baits do in a catapult?
Yep.
They just spread. They're lovely, aren't they? And they on the surface. There's no plop, 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 is there? It's just lovely baiting. Doing it. And I had 3-4 key of them cut up. I'd painstakingly done with a cutter. And then put 3 chods out over the top of it. Right? And what happened over the next sort of 24, I've just got at 10, 15 yards, I've just got heads just coming out.
That's some of the best fishing you can have done, isn't it?
Well, it is when you get bites.
Yeah.
Heads, like just the whole time. There's fizzes coming up in the... Like, come on! Like, go! Nothing. And it wasn't until the very end of the day I had this fish, right, on a choddy. Done it again the next day, same things happened again. Done it the next day, same things happened again. And that James Pearce was fishing it at the time. You know the guy?
I know who he is, yeah.
So he's there just as I'm finishing the session, and he's dying to get in the swim, right? Because there's so many fish there, and he thinks he's going to batter it because I'm a Wellie and he knows his onions. Yeah, I don't think he caught very many in that session, if anything at all, after me, and it sort of proved that they were very, very hard to catch. They were preoccupied on all this bait in the weed, and we were all doing it wrong by fishing pop-ups. So I basically went back after that. I think there might be a couple more from that session, Toad, that were... we've come away from... That's a lovely carp, that, isn't it? I think that one... They got big, I think, that one, didn't it? But look at the colour of it. Didn't appreciate that as much as I should have done at the time.
Like a mini version
Is
of
that
the
a
big
bit
one.
common?
I don't think it is, but it bloody enough looked like
It
it.
does, doesn't it? But we've come away from the spiky hair era. Have you noticed? We've gone to the side parting era now. That is a lovely carp, isn't it? Just the shape of these fish, like they got a bad rep, these carp, didn't they? They're all ugly water pigs.
But they're just not, though, are they? You can sort of see they're not.
That's amazing. Would have loved to have got the babies of these. Love to. He's a little bit more
strange old thing.
A bit more of a Gurma, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he's
You're on Daisy Point at this point, though. You're not in.
No, I'm catching him out of hole in the bush here. I think.
Yeah.
Never caught anything off Daisy. Never had a bite off Daisy. Small tail, much smaller. This is the summer when I fished it. So this is
you're
bottom baits and peanuts.
But you're getting in. You're getting in hole in the bush regularly.
Getting in hole in the bush. Summer. It's hardly
Everyone's
anybody
gone.
there.
Right.
Don't want to catch it. They don't want to catch this at 38. They want to catch it at 48, don't they? You know. So yeah, peanuts. You're allowed to use nuts. Peanuts and boilies. What a combination! What a combination!
And when you finally set foot in hallowed turf of hole in the bush, like the best swim on the lake, in inverted commas, how did you attack it?
Well, I've been in the swim loads of times in the past. I never caught anything out at extreme range, but at mid-range, 80 to 100, off to the right was no man's land. You couldn't get there from Lorries; it was too far. But it was an easy cast from there.
Wade out and wang right. Yeah.
Wade out a little bit, flick to the right. Yeah, anything between 50 and 100 yards, I would say. So it was great. You just spanned your rods out along that bit. The alcove was just to your right. All these, there was a big, lovely, silty trough, I remember that year. So there was Canadian either side, and a big, smooth, silty trough that you got a nice, firm thud in. It's lovely for bottom bait fishing. And this was the only session I ever had where I caught one before I put the bobbin on. Bottom bait fishing as well. So I'm fishing with cog leads. I remember the long distance cogs, probably 5 inches of probably fluorocarbon at the time, stiff fluorocarbon, straight pointed hook, and a bottom bait. Like just probably a tiny bit balanced, yeah. And I'm just putting out loads of boilies, loads of peanuts, hiding my peanuts so nobody could see what I was doing. And I had them proper going. I had 8 this session, like, you know, including this small tail. And it was just rocking. And that's like I say, I moved around the lake a lot in the summer. I learnt loads of new spots. I caught loads of fish, and I learnt more about it in one summer than the previous 5 winters that I'd been on there. So I wouldn't do that again. Go on a lake and fish it at the hardest point for the first few seasons. Do a summer, learn it.
Okay.
You know, look at that.
That's incredible, that one.
Isn't it? They're 35, 38 pounders, whatever, but
I bet he's massive now.
if it's still alive. That looks like that same common as before. It's got them funny rows of scales there.
We got the other side of that, Tobes. Yeah. Don't know if it is. It's got a different tail, but
yeah. That's in that's it back in Bramble. Can't remember. I'll tell you the thing I worked out in Bramble, right? I know how I caught this. So after that disastrous session, I think I caught 3 220s and a scrape of 30 when they were all over me. So I thought, let's just go with in the weedy swims with a helicopter rig, and the same rig that I'm putting on the cog. Yeah, so I've got 5 to 6 inches of. I remember now, 5 to 6 inches of 20-pound IQ soft. D rig, so tied straight onto the hook, so no swivel. There was no Ronnie rig or anything at the time. So I'm fishing it D rig style, and tying it onto the hook with my whipping knot, and then cutting the tag end, and then doing another whipping knot up the top of the bend of the hook and poking it back through and burning it. So the great big D. Yeah. And that was on size 4 captor wide gapes. And so I'm fishing that with the same. That's what I did. I rolled up a mix of bottom baits with cork dust in it. Or no, I had some. Kev gave me some paste. That's what it was. Newgrange paste, and I kneaded cork dust into that paste. And it takes some doing. Have you ever done that?
No.
It takes some doing. What you do is you knead it in, and you drop the whole ball in a bucket of water. And when the ball starts to float, all of them have got that same buoyancy pretty much. Yeah. So you drop it in, sinks. It's all sticky. You put some more thing, and it's a laborious task, and your hands are aching by the end of it. Yeah. But then once you've got the whole ball just about floating, then you roll them willy into balls, whatever size they are, and they're all going to be pretty good. So I was fishing 20 millers, wafters, and I just casting these with a bit of foam round it, just casting them into the weed, drop or no drop, into the weed, and just putting the boilies out all over it. With either catapulting or it's deep in front of that swim, so I was probably using the spod, just spodding them out all over the thing. And I thought, am I going to catch one? I'm casting into the weed with a bottom bait, caught them straight away.
Did you say I was on the cog or the helicopter?
No, I was using cog in open water and helicopter when it's weedy. So cog when I got a drop, when it was that firm silt, and then never fished on the gravel really on there. And the helicopter with it. If I had known that the previous session, I probably would have caught 10. Just fishing effectively a bottom bait in the weed. Just let it, everything comes to rest. You've got a bit of foam on. That falls off, and it just falls down somewhere in the weed. Doesn't matter. Their heads are in the weed trying to get all them half baits. But because you've got one sticking up above it, they're like, yeah, right, I ain't having that. I'm going to go to the bottom and get all these others that are all down there. If I in that session on that with them choddies on, if I just put a bottom bait on the choddy and cast it out, I would have caught one. Bet your life on it.
Yeah.
So it's all that sort of lessons learned. It's good going back through this actually, because I remember all this stuff sort of vividly now, and they're great tactics.
This looks like back to spring somehow.
That was spring. Wanging out a chod out. Look, I think wasn't that the one I caught when you were with me? Couldn't have been, because you didn't take that picture.
No, you got your self-take, aren't you?
Yeah.
Look at all those. He's got millions of pearly scales, that one. Millions. Can't even see him.
Yeah.
Go on, Tobes. I recognise him, though, that fish. That's back in goose shit, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it for that year.
That's it.
Yeah. I've only given you like the 30-pounders probably in there, but that was a really, really good summer. I really enjoyed that. The long distance cogs, again, I hardly use them anymore. Big hook baits, tubing, and then swapping from that onto the in the end bottom baits on a helicopter rig in the weed. That's great summer. That
quite interesting. Looking through almost all of your pictures there, have got some kind of sun or blue sky backgrounds. Then barely any in carpy conditions. Really. On Wellie,
I liked it on there in the sun. Didn't
it must have shallow water and they got them going. Was that the last year then? Was it? Did you do another year?
No. Is there one more, Toad?
Last one's 2013.
That was it.
No, I've got.
Oh, you've got one here. Let's have a look then. So going into your last year, did you realise it was going to be your last year, Dan? Did you have
No.
Right.
So I started.
That was early, man.
Yeah, that was again. I think Jim Shelley took that picture.
Right.
I think. I'm not sure.
Oh no, you got a remote.
I got a remote there.
Yeah.
Remote there. Sorry, I'm confusing it with a big common. 25-pounder, but it was granite hard. I'd done 3 days again, nothing.
The singles.
On the singles, single food baits on choddies.
Okay, what made you use the food baits as opposed to the?
Because I caught so many on them the previous summer.
Okay. Yeah,
like I say, it's very rare to go completely against the grain of what you've been catching on.
Yes,
isn't it?
Why would you?
You've caught on a certain thing. You've got great confidence in it. You start with everything. And I've caught the previous spring on food baits because, like you say, they go almost white.
Yes,
so the visibility element of it is there, and
Here he is again.
Big common again, third time, biggest one, 48, 14, I think. A little bit more space around the picture now, which is good. Still,
we're back to this though.
Yeah,
lovely carp though.
Lovely, lovely carp. Happy to catch it every time. So that one, right, it's now dog eat dog, right? There's loads of people on it. Syndicate's full, whatever it is, 50 people. They never tell you how many people are in the syndicate. Could have been 100 people, It's 1,500 quid a year, right? And everyone's fishing it. No one's paying 1,500 quid a year and sitting on the ticket, are they? So the postman was on there. Do you know that guy, the postman from Reading? Can't remember his name. Apologies, I can't remember your name. Fished the longest hinges I've ever seen in my life and a swivel that had loads of ball bearings on it.
Oh, Roy Allen.
Roy Allen. Yeah. And then a hinge on that.
Yeah.
Slept in waders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Post office used to, great angler. Great angler. And boilie angler. Again, one of these people just hit the ground running there because it just suited his fishing. And he used them great big long ball bearing swivels.
That's how I realised who it was.
Yes.
Because I've heard about these rigs.
Yeah.
Roy the Boy, they call him, don't they?
Roy the Boy, do they? He's caught everything everywhere, isn't he?
Yeah,
great angler, great angler, But at the time, I'm like, what? What have you got on? Because I'm fishing like choddies and what have you. I don't know if this is on the choddy or not, but it was in Animal Farm, one of the few fish I've caught out of there.
How deep that fish, man.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. But basically now it's totally dog eat dog. And I remember I'm on the other side of the bay near where the reeds swim. There was a swim next to it. I can't remember what it was called.
Sluice?
Might have been, but it was a really nice swim. Didn't catch much out of it, but it was a really nice swim. Lovely trees, like a bit of an alleyway going down to your rods, and
actually, in Animal Farm itself.
No, the opposite side. So
okay.
just down, the next one down from the grassy.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Do you know what that's called?
No.
Next one down from the grassy.
Right in that far corner though of that bay. Yeah.
No, the reeds is the one in the far corner. So it's the one in between the reeds and there's people fishing it who are screaming.
Yeah, sorry
now.
Yeah, no, I don't know enough, Dan. So
yeah, but I'd moved from round there. I'd seen them showing out in that bay. Started there, and then everyone had just gone jump all around me, and all started going out all to almost the same bit. I've just put 3 singles out because they're out there. Fucking heads coming out, big and free out there, lightest ledge you can. Ding, ding, ding. Lovely. Geezer turns up, fucking spoms going out, and I'm like, oh great, here we go. I mean that happened to me several times. Just go back one. So I think that one was from the previous summer. This is right at the end. This is the best way to sort of finish it. So one at the time, I think the previous year or that year when I caught the 40s, another person was fishing on there, I'm not going to name the guy, on there all the time, just sheeping it up. 12-foot lead core on, because Shelley used 12-foot lead core. Why anyone uses 12-foot lead core? It should be against the law, in my opinion. It casts like a bag of shit, doesn't it? He was cracking off 12-foot lead core, casting out. Why would you cast 12-foot lead core with a 2-ounce lead on the end of it? It's like, what? You know, just insane. But he's everywhere, you know, straight in behind people, in before people, everything, not really catching a lot. And I was in Bramble, in the the new swim, and he's coming opposite me in that entrance to what's the name, and I've got them all out and they're in there. And I rang him and I went, do not fuck this up. No, did I ring him or not? No, I didn't. No, so I didn't. He'd done it to me before, up that end, I think, cast out on top of me, got rid of them. And he'd promptly gone in there. No, he did that first. He went into Bramble first, I think, and went in there. And he's looking for a clear spot in Bramble. There are no clear spots in Bramble. I'm not kidding you. He must have had 200 casts with a rig. It went on for about an hour, and then he wound in, packed up, and went home because he couldn't find a clear spot. And just fucking, they were in there, mate. I was going to have them. It was going to be like that session where I'd had 340s, you know. So the same thing happened out here. There's leads flying at them from everywhere, and what looked like it was going to be a multiple fish hit was then going to be a blank. So I've moved around the other side to the wide swim or something like that. I can't remember what. No, I'd moved round potentially to go in the wide swim, and there's another guy with his gear in the wide swim. He's like, "Well, you going to go in here or not?" And I'm like, "I might just go in there." Mm-hmm. Can't be bothered. You know, it was getting stupid, absolutely stupid at this point. So I've gone into Animal Farm. I think if it wasn't in this order of events, I apologise for people that were there. But I went into Animal Farm and I caught a 25-pounder. I think a little mirror, almost straight away, and then not long after I caught this one. That's right, I caught this one, and the guy that was in that wide swim, bearing in mind these fish I've been fishing for that had disappeared, turned back up again out in that bay. When it all calmed down, they started showing again. Oh, fucking hell! But I'm in Animal Farm now, and I've probably had this. So they're showing, and because I've had this, I'm thinking about moving, and the geezer wants to move in behind me, who's in the wide swim with them showing in front of him. I'm like, mate, they're in front of you, you know. So I think he's ended up not moving. No, tell a lie. I moved out of there, I think. Did I move out of there? Something happened. I moved out of wherever I was, and he caught the clean fish out of the swim because I moved out of there. That's right. I caught them too. Moved out of there because there was just no fish left. And he moved out of the wides into that swim because I got them bites. Bearing in mind, you could see the bottom for 30, 40 yards. There's nothing there. And caught the clean fish out of that swim. And I'm just like, oh, man, that was like 48 pound or whatever. And I think then I moved back in there again, and there was now 17 people. 8's busy. There was 17 people on Wellie at this point. And I only moved back in. There was no fish there. I moved back in there because the swim opposite, was ticker taped off. Can't remember what it was called now. That swim opposite there. Do you remember?
No.
And the geezers come in and just ripped all the ticker tape down and just moved into the swim. The swim's all collapsing. Just moved in and started thrashing it out in the bay. And that was my last day that I ever fished it. And I wound in and I'm like, I am never coming back here. I cannot fish under these conditions of people just sheeping you up, casting on top of you, like waiting behind you in the swim, just jumping in your grave. It just weren't carp fishing. Amazing carp, lovely lake, too many members. And it wasn't necessarily the members' fault. You know, it's just it was so dog eat dog because there's so many people on there and they're all paying loads of money and there's no restriction on time or anything else. You can do 3-4 nights, whatever. And so they're doing every week that amount of time, you know, but you know, I still, you know, looking back at it now, that spring when it all went right, and that summer the following year when it all went right were lovely times. And obviously, I grew as an angler from it. It was nice fishing around some of the guys, you know, some real characters. around it, you know. And at the time, you think back, you know, Stotty's here again. But his character, do you know what I mean, of carp fishing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are loads of characters now, but even that feels old school now compared to what it's like nowadays. Even that, there were real characters, you know, and yeah, it was. I think the character bit, as people get older, they develop these funny traits, don't they? And you've probably got a great word for it. What do you call that? Developing a funny trait. What's that?
Eccentricities, I reckon.
Eccentricities.
Yeah.
The eccentricity would be a great carp, wouldn't it? That only gets caught from one corner. You know, yeah, I think if you fish a syndicate like the Baston Syndicate that we've got, the embryo one, Baston Big Lake, that's full of characters because they're all older guys. None of them have got anything to prove. No one's just filling up their album or trying to get famous or anything else. There's no wannabes. There's no gonna-bes. There mostly has-beens, you know. You know, like me, getting past their best, and it becomes a lovely place, you know. And but no, you know, Wellie, you know, I'm really pleased I fished it. Looking back, it's nice to do this because you trip down memory lane. You see all the amazing carp that you've caught. Probably didn't appreciate them quite as much as I should have done at the time, you know, because young and desperate for more all the time, you know. But no, I'd like to see it go back to its former glory, you know. And in spite of what I said about the fishery management, you know, if ever they wanted help with how to get it back to its former glory, I could do it. I remember Andy actually did ring me once and asked me if I wanted to run the syndicate, and I wish I'd said yes, because there was no embryo at the time. That wasn't even a glimmer in my eye at the time. But what a place with the right members, fishing the right amount of time and the right bait and the right getting rid of all. I was the only one that used to get rid of the tench and put them in the duck pond. Get rid of all of them and the right membership and everything and controlling the weed and the algae. My God, it might have had 40, 50s in it now, you know. But yeah, you know, an amazing lake, like you say, the first of the super waters, you know, and I was pleased to be there.
I think that's a good place to leave it, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.
Top.